Chapter 26. Today's Chen Hui, after many times of practice, has been able to rely on the ability to control his own bones to perform most of Jun Malu's tricks. Skeleton Meridian. Willow Dance, Toon Dance, Tang Song's Thing, Iron Thread Flower Dance, plus 10 finger piercing bullets. These moves, no matter how powerful they are, at least they can be performed in a decent manner. Come out. Kamaro's ultimate dance, the dance of Zawara. This kind of move that needs to use a lot of chakra, not just physical skills, grows a lot of bone spurs from the ground, forming a unique move in the bone spur field, but it can't be used at all. Be sure to rely on the bioenergy of the human body similar to chakra. Not to mention imitating Shueji's snare and killing ashes together. If I can study this bioreaction chip thoroughly and use it perfectly, it will not only solve the problem of fully mechanical automation management, but also stimulate the biological energy similar to chakra from the body. Chen Hui clenched his fists, excited. This way, not only will I be able to develop stronger moves, but it will also allow me to fundamentally strengthen the previous moves of Shijimai. Chen Hui, the police are here, they have surrounded the building, we need to leave quickly. Just then Peter's voice came over. Chen Hui moved his ears and looked down and around, and sure enough, he saw police cars encircling the building, and people were crowds looking up. Just now the explosions one after another were too violent. If they were not noticeable, there would be ghosts. Chen Hui faintly saw several police helicopters flying in the distance, fully armed. Let's go. Chen Hui picked up the half-dead Dr. Octopus, and quickly left the scene with Peter. With their skills, the police couldn't catch them at all. Call. After some twists and turns, with the help of Dr. Connors, Chen Hui and Peter finally brought Dr. Octopus into the laboratory smoothly. Chen Hui, the explosion on the top of the building just now was not caused by you, right? Dr. Connors looked at Chen Hui speechlessly. Look at Peter again. Tell me, Peter, what happened? Don't think I don't know the little secret between you and Chen Hui. Did he inject you with a cross-species genetic medicine, so that you have super ability? Hey, Dr. Connors, don't look at me like that, I know your little secret too. Peter shrugged and glanced at Dr. Connors' right arm. I bet you never want to see that bionic arm again. Dr. Connors hesitated, and said helplessly, okay, Peter, if you don't tell me the reason for the explosion, you should explain to me what happened to the person in the sack. Dr. Connors, can you open it yourself? Chen Hui smiled mysteriously. Dr. Connors became curious when he heard this. In order to repay Chen Hui's kindness, no matter how hard Chen Hui was in the laboratory, he helped to cover it down, but now a big living person came in. This is not a trivial matter. We must find out the identity of this person. After all, no matter how talented and capable Chen Hui and Peter are, they are only 15 or 16-year-old boys. As an adult, he has to take care of them and not let them mess around. Wow! Dr. Connors lifted the sack. Seeing that there was a blood man in the sack, he was startled, but when he found the broken metal mechanical tentacles, he frowned and was stunned for a moment, and when he finally recognized the identity of Dr. Octopus, he couldn't help opening his mouth. Dr. Otto. As one of the authoritative figures in the field of scientific research, Dr. Connors naturally knew Dr. Octopus, but in his knowledge, Dr. Octopus had already gone mad and disappeared, but he never expected to see him here. Dr. Connors, I want to ask you to do me a favor. Suddenly Chen replied. Oh? What do you want me to do? Dr. Connors looked at Chen Hui. He knew that Chen Hui would not be indiscriminate, since he had brought back the long-lost Dr. Octopus, especially after the astonishing explosion. It was obvious that Dr. Octopus was captured by them as the defeated one. As for Chen Hui, a scientific madman, he will never give up if he does not study something. Doctor, this is a very simple job. I just hope to help me build a bridge, lead a connection, and contact those who are interested in gene-strengthening liquid medicine. Chen Hui is understated and authentic. What? Dr. Connors opened his eyes wide. You want to sell genetic strengthening medicine? Good. Chen Hui nodded. Peter was also a little surprised, but he knew Chen Hui better, and when he saw the slight smile on the corner of Chen Hui's mouth, he knew that Chen Hui had no good intentions. Dr. Connors said solemnly, Chen Hui, the gene-strengthening liquid is developed by you yourself. How you want to deal with it is your own freedom, but I still want to remind you that although your gene-strengthening liquid has no side effects, but, once it flows into the military, do you know what the consequences will be? Dr. Connors, don't worry, I won't sell all my money, I just want to sell some. There is a time limit, it can temporarily increase the activity of human cells, and it has a self-healing effect similar to that of a lizard. The healing liquid of the liquid. You can call it the inferior product of my genetic strengthening liquid, or the lizard healing liquid. Chen Hui smiled and said, to give a very simple example, a soldier was injured and his combat ability dropped sharply, but after being injected with my lizard healing medicine, his combat ability quickly recovered, and the injury was healed without any side effects. It's similar to the healing medicine for killing monsters in the game, you should understand this, doctor, right? Connors was taken aback when he heard the words, and when he understood the meaning of Chen Hui's words and realized the value of the lizard healing medicine that Chen Hui said, he couldn't help breathing quickly. Chen Hui, can you really develop this lizard healing medicine? The third is here. Chapter 27. No matter who it is for, Chen Hui's perfect cross-species genetic medicinal liquid and the perfect green goblin strengthening potion will have an incalculable change in their life, because these two potions will give them super abilities. Chen Hui will not give this kind of thing to others easily, it is an exclusive item for his relatives and friends. But inferior products are different. This time the items have some of the effects of the perfect level exclusive items, such as enhancing strength and having self-healing ability, but they are all time limited. After using it, if you still want it, just pay for it. This is Chen Hui's way of making money. He will not add addictive ingredients to the liquid medicine, but the original effect of the liquid medicine is the greatest addiction. No one can resist this momentary powerful fatal temptation. Because this comes from the most indelible thing in human nature, greed. Dr. Connors was so excited because he realized this. Selling the genetic medicine in this way will not only prevent everyone from becoming superpowered and cause riots, but it will also bring them constant huge profits. Especially on the army side, since soldiers are often injured, the demand for lizard healing medicine will definitely be extremely strong. This is definitely more profitable than selling arms. Dr. Connors, I definitely can develop lizard healing medicine. In fact, the principle is very simple. It is born out of the perfect cross-species lizard medicine I injected into you. Chen Hui smiled and said, not only that, I can also develop a lizard power potion, which can increase people's strength in a short period of time. How about it, Dr. Connors, do you have any customers who need my product? If not, I can only go to Harry. Definitely yes. Definitely yes. Dr. Connors nodded quickly and smiled, give me 3 days, and I will give you a satisfactory answer. The next thing to do is to deal with the Dr. Octopus. This is simple, Chen Hui is not in a hurry to study bioreaction chips, after all, this is different from genetic medicine. The former, Chen Hui, has been thinking about it for 15 years and has already studied it thoroughly. Entering Osborn's research is just to realize his own theoretical research. The latter, for the current Chen Hui, is a brand new field, and cannot be rushed. He found Harry, and secretly put Dr. Octopus under house arrest by means, leaving it for later research. After all this, he was ready to relax and asked Gwen out. Chen Hui, thank you for remembering me. Gwen pouted her lips, and looked like she didn't want to pay attention to Chen Hui. She was obviously dissatisfied that Chen Hui had been spending time in the laboratory these days and ignored her. I'm not doing it for Harry. Chen Hui smiled, and hugged Gwen from behind, besides, didn't I come out with you? Well, to make it up to you, I'll treat you to a big meal. Chen Hui got $10 million, so he can definitely treat Gwen to a meal. I just know how to eat. I don't know that people are losing weight. Gwen gave a blank look. However, he suddenly thought of something, rolled his eyes, and said to Chen, by the way, I know that a new amusement park opened recently, don't you want to compensate me? Why don't you go to this playground with me? Definitely no problem. Chen Hui nodded happily. The newly opened playground is extremely popular, and you can see people inside and out. But in a place like this, it's fun to have a lot of people. Chen Hui accompanied Gwen to go around inside, and soon it was night. The two sat on the Ferris wheel, watching the city scenery at night, feeling relaxed and happy. Chen Hui was also emotional, but at this moment, his eyes flashed suddenly, and he looked at the night sky suddenly. If he saw it right just now, there should be a flash of fire in the distant sky. It's like the flames of something exploding. This is... Chen Hui's eyes were fixed. This kind of flames can often be seen at night in New York since Tony Stark revealed his identity as Iron Man in front of the media. Although the flames were fleeting, Chen Hui still recognized that it was Tony Stark, that is, Iron Man, who flew past from the night sky just now. By the way, Iron Man originally has no power to generate itself from the body. All energy sources come from the arc reactor. More precisely, it comes from the reaction power of a certain element, such as the current palladium element. Chen Hui vaguely grasped a certain key point, how to use the bioreaction chip to make himself produce chakra and other powers, so as to make a qualitative change in the ability of his bone veins. A cell is actually equivalent to a small arc reactor. What I have to do now is to add certain elements to it, use the bioreaction chip to stimulate and generate a reaction, and then burst out energy similar to chakra. And this kind of explosion will directly affect my bone vein ability, causing a qualitative change in my bone composition. In this way, I can directly complete Concept 1 in Plan A. Chen Hui's heart became completely clear. Chapter 28. Concept 1 of Plan A is to metallize and demagnetize the bones of the whole body, so that the hardness of the bones of the whole body will not only be greatly improved, but also the toughness will become extremely strong. Not only that, if Chen Hui can integrate vibranium elements into cells and combine them to form an arc reaction, the bones of the whole body will not only be metallized, but also vibraniumized, and secrete chakra-like energy. In this way, not to mention the dance of the bone meridian, he can use it to kill all the ashes, and it is more powerful than Kaguya-kun. Mad, the whole body's bones are vibraniumized, this is awesome to think about. Chen Hui cheered up. From now on, the full skeleton vibranium plan can start. But first you need to get vibranium. If he wants to get vibranium, all the plans are already on the itinerary. When he becomes famous for the lizard healing medicine, things like money are no longer a trivial matter. The most important thing is that he can get many contacts and channels. In many sensitive industries there is a rule, sell cooked but not raw. Especially for the sale of rare items like vibranium, it is impossible for you to call casually, and they will rush over. You must at least have an introduction from an acquaintance before you can connect with the other party. So contacts and channels are very important. The time for fun and relaxation passes quickly. The next day, Chen Hui came to Harry's house. Chen Hui, don't worry, I have placed Dr. Octopus in place. Harry said, but what are you going to do with him next? We can't lock him up forever, right? Definitely won't lock him up forever. The corners of Chen Hui's mouth curled up into a smile. I came today to take advantage of your underground professional laboratory to get the bioreaction chip, and to dismantle this guy's tentacles by the way. The company's laboratory is really too small, and after that, this guy should become a normal person, then Harry, you can arrange it for me, I believe you. Oh, by the way, Harry, don't you want to take control of Osborn Enterprise yourself? Chen suddenly replied. Harry hesitated. Chen Hui, my dad is in his prime now, it's probably not my turn to take control of the company, and, you know, I don't know anything. Just make up my homework, it's a headache. Well, I understand, then Harry, you can show me the way. It is good. If Harry took control of the Osborn Company, it would be much easier for Chen Hui to act in the future, but since Harry didn't want to for the time being, Chen Hui wouldn't force it. But according to his prediction, sooner or later Harry would take control of Osborn. Injected with the perfect Green Goblin strengthening potion, not only will Harry's body be strengthened, but his brain will also be developed, and his whole body will be completely reborn. And the average person gets the ability, and will definitely do something that they have always wanted to do. Like Harry, he always wanted his dad's approval. With Harry's current ability and Chen Hui's advice, it's too easy to gain the approval of Norman Osborn, gain a firm foothold in the Osborn Company by virtue of his strength, and gain real power. Everything is just a matter of time. With the cooperation of Chen Hui and Harry, Dr. Octopus couldn't resist at all. In the laboratory, Chen Hui removed the biological reaction chip and dismantled the four mechanical tentacles. Afterwards, Dr. Octopus became a normal person, and left it to Harry to deal with it himself. As a rich second generation, Harry had quite a lot of connections, and Chen Hui also believed that Harry could handle this matter well. Call. Under the light, the bioreaction chip showed a strange blood color, and it could be seen faintly that there were veins flowing in it, like human meridians, or nerve veins. Magic! Chen Hui clicked his tongue in admiration. Because of an experimental accident, Dr. Octopus was controlled by a chip and became evil and crazy. In fact, the biggest mutant in the experiment was not Dr. Octopus, but this chip. This chip, after mutation, is not just a chip, but a kind of biological existence, although it doesn't have any consciousness, These nerve veins seem to be a bit like gene sequencing. No, it seems it's a small brain-like reactor. Chen Hui fell into deep research without knowing it. With Harry's cover, Chen Hui can safely and boldly study here without worrying about being disturbed. Soon, 2 days passed. Chen Hui's research on the chip was almost 1/10 of the progress, and at this moment, Dr. Connors called. Chen Hui, I have a friend from the Middle East. He is very interested in your lizard healing medicine. If you are free, please set up a time to meet. Friends from the Middle East. A bright light flashed in Chen Hui's eyes. The Middle East was home to many terrorists, and there were many perennial wars in the countries there. That's where Tony Stark was caught, and he had seen the news. If you want to make lizard healing medicine popular quickly, selling it to the Middle East is undoubtedly the best choice. It seems that Dr. Connors still has a business mind. Well, Doctor, let's arrange to meet tomorrow night, and you will send the location information when the time comes. No problem. Dr. Connors hung up the phone. Chen Hui, Peter and I will go with you. Harry said, those people from the Middle East are not good people. Well, that's fine. Chen Hui rolled his eyes and nodded. Harry, how about this, you negotiate with those people in the name of Osborn. It is impossible for outsiders to know your specific status in Osborn, only know that you are the son of the boss, so we can rip off the tiger skin of Osborn Enterprises, A&D. Chen Hui chuckled, Harry, just take this opportunity to exercise your ability to pretend as the future heir of the Osborn Enterprise. Chapter 29. New York night is always brightly lit. However, there is a building that seems to be hidden in the darkness forever, and it looks very mysterious. There are no extra lights outside. If you don't look carefully, you can't find it. Now. Woo-woo, a black Audi supercar stopped under the building, and in front of it was a black heavy truck, which stopped and several people stepped out of it. Mr. Lucio, is this here? As the window of the supercar rolled down slowly, Chen Hui looked at the leading man who got out of the heavy truck. This man has a crew cut, unshaven beard, a fleshy face, and a black combat uniform. The only strange thing is that this guy actually wears black goggles at night, making him look like a mentally retarded man. Yes, Mr. Chen, please get out of the car with Mr. Osborn. Dr. Connors and his assistant are already waiting. Lucio said, the sound was like the humming of an exhaust fan. Okay. Chen Hui nodded, and looked at Harry in the passenger seat. Mr. Osborn, let's go. It is good. Harry nodded lightly, expressionless. Only then did Lucio open the car door for Harry, and said respectfully, Mr. Osborn, please. There is no light decoration outside the building, but the inside of the building is as bright as day, but there are no people, most of the places are empty, and occasionally a few people rush by, looking very busy. Chen Hui looked around, and information about this Middle Eastern power flashed through his mind. The AI mercenary company has an Israeli background. Its main military activities are located in the Middle East, and sometimes it also has business in South Africa. However, what is interesting is that this mercenary company also has countless unknown relationships with the United States. In the past, the source of arms mainly came from Stark Industry. Later, Tony Stark stopped most of the arms sales business, and they had a lot of contact with the government military. They even seemed to have hired many employees of Stark Industry to manufacture arms by themselves. These are all information from Dr. Connors, as well as intelligence that Harry has unearthed through Osborn corporate channels. Like the one with Stark Industries. Generally speaking, this AI mercenary company is still quite mysterious, and it also has a background and strength. However, the background is mysterious and the strength is strong, which is a good thing. Chen Hui needs such a partner to help him spread his reputation. As for whether it will eat itself? But there is no need to worry. Firstly, Dr. Connors will not harm him if Dr. Connors is the bridge, and secondly, he has the banner of Osborn Company in front of him, so the other party dare not mess around. The only thing that needs to be careful is that the other party sees that Harry is too tender, and when negotiating the price, they will show force and make invisible threats. After all, on the surface, their threat of force is really too small, and they don't even have a bodyguard. And about this point, Chen Hui only expressed 2 words, hee. Call. Soon everyone entered a room. There was a long table in the room, and at the end of the long table sat a man in a white suit and a big black man. At this moment, the man in the white suit was drinking red wine elegantly. When he saw Chen Hui and the others coming in, he squinted and said, "Hey, look who's here, my dear little Mr. Osborn." And his assistant, the genius boy Dr. Chen Hui. He's really famous for a long time. The man's expression was exaggerated, and his voice was even more sharp, full of sarcasm. Okay. Harry's face turned pale for a moment. Chen Hui frowned. According to Dr. Connor's information, the person who met them should be a black man named John West, an old retired soldier, and now he is a leader with real power in the AI mercenary company. That black man should be John West, but what the hell is this guy in the white suit? West, this is... Dr. Connors looked at the guy in the white suit, frowning slightly with dissatisfaction. West, however, didn't seem to notice Chen Hui's dissatisfaction at all, and said with a smile, "Connors, oh, and Mr. Osborn, this is Mr. Justin Hammer, a good friend of mine. I heard that your hand there are some good things on here, so I came to take a look temporarily, and I hope you don't mind." Justin Hammer. Chen Hui's eyes flashed when he heard the words. He understood why this AI mercenary company had an ambiguous relationship with the United States, and even rumored to manufacture arms by itself. It turns out that standing behind this company is Justin Hammer, the big boss of Hammer Industries. Hammer Industries is an arms company comparable to Stark Industries, and Justin Hammer is also a billionaire like Tony. It's just that when Tony Stark developed the Iron Man battlesuit, Hammer Industries was obviously inferior to Stark Industries. Therefore, Justin Hammer was extremely jealous of Stark and always wanted to create armor like Stark. It turned out to be Mr. Hammer, who has really admired his name for a long time. Chen Hui laughed suddenly, and winked quietly at Harry and the others. "Mr. Hammer, since you are also interested in our products, it is just right that one more customer will bring more money. Let's sit down and discuss together." Harry said calmly, with an expression of calm. He sat down and looked at Chen Hui. Chen Hui smiled, picked up the metal box in his hand, and opened it. Wow! As the cold air flowed, 3 light blue test tube liquid medicines and a syringe emerged from the box. Hammer immediately cast his gaze over, staring intently. "This is your product, lizard healing medicine." Hammer suddenly sneered, "This name is really interesting, lizard? People who won't be injected will become big lizards, right? I've heard of it, Queen's X. There have been lizard monster riots in the past few days. Mr. Hammer, that means, you don't believe in our products." Chen Hui narrowed his eyes and looked at Hammer. He knew that this profiteer wanted to lower the price and deliberately find fault. If that's the case, then we might as well conduct an experiment. Chen replied, "Mr. West, can I borrow your staff to use it?" "Can." West signaled, and suddenly a tall and strong mercenary stood up. "My lizard healing medicine is very simple to use, just like this." Chen Hui showed a harmless smile, and put the medicine liquid into the injection gun, but suddenly, a bone blade appeared from the sleeve very concealed. With a thud, it slashed through the mercenary's arm. Wow! Blood spattered out. Everyone's face changed. The mercenary looked even more horrified, and subconsciously wanted to quickly draw his gun, but Chen Hui was faster than him, and directly grabbed his wrist. Once he exerted force, this guy was like a marionette, at Chen Hui's mercy. Chen Hui picked up the injection gun and injected it directly. The mercenary's eyes widened, and veins popped all over his body. At this moment, a strange scene appeared. The wound of the mercenary, healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Wow! Hammer stood up abruptly from his chair, stared at the scene with wide eyes, and looked at the lizard healing medicine in Chen Hui's hand, already full of greed. But this greed was quickly covered up by him. "How is it? Mr. Hammer, are you satisfied with the effect?" The scene where Chen Hui demonstrated the effect of the lizard healing medicine neatly shocked not only the mercenaries, but also Harry, Peter, and Dr. Connors. Especially Peter gave a thumbs up. "Handsome." Hammer and West were silent, they discussed it, followed West to look at Chen Hui, and Harry. "This lizard healing medicine, 1 serving, we will pay $300,000. "Oh? $300,000? Chen Hui turned his eyes, and looked at Harry, and both saw a trace of brilliance in each other's eyes. "This price is low. Mr. Hammer, did you really come here temporarily today? Did no one else know you were here?" Suddenly Chen Hui asked Hammer. Hammer was taken aback, then nodded subconsciously, "Yeah, what's the matter?" "That's good." Chen Hui smiled, I think the price of our lizard healing medicine is at least $1 million. What? 1,000,000 copies? Hanmer stood up abruptly and slapped the table. Are you crazy about money? Chapter 30. Hanmer's voice was sharp, his eyes widened, his face full of disdain and sneer. $1 million? Just triple the price they set? Daydream. You know, this is only the price of one potion, and it is impossible to buy only one potion of this kind of healing potion, and according to the super effect of this lizard potion, Hanmer knows that no matter who it is, it has tasted the benefits of this kind of healing potion finally. I will definitely not be able to resist buying again in the future. And how much does a potion cost to make? This is a huge profit. Hanmer's thoughts changed sharply, and he became very interested in the specific formula of Chen Hui's potion. Humph! Chen Hui snorted coldly in his heart. It would be easier to talk about business with a mercenary like West. After all, soldiers have a straight mind and don't have too many twists and turns. But profiteers like Hanmer are different. He used his toes to figure out that Hanmer must have become interested in his lizard healing medicine formula, and wanted to make his own lizard healing medicine. He might be planning something at the moment, trying to steal his formula, or even turn his face. Possibly directly. West, a mercenary from the Middle East, might have scruples about Osborn, but Hanmer would not. Not to mention Harry, even Harry's father, Norman Osborn, would find a way to eat it. Therefore, since Chen Hui saw Hanmer appearing, he has no plans to discuss business seriously. It just so happens that my bioreaction chip has researched something a little bit. If Hanmer dares to do it, that's right, I'll use him for an experiment. One ghostly idea emerged in Chen Hui's mind. As long as Hanmer dares to do something, he has 1,000 ways to kill this guy. Mr. Hanmer, please calm down. Chen Hui said lightly, crazy about money? Let me ask, who in this world is not interested in money? Our lizard healing medicine, $1 million apiece, is absolutely not expensive. Absolutely innocent. If you think it's expensive, yes, we will contact other customers, you can see their reactions, and finally make a final decision whether to buy it or not. Oh, right. Chen Hui pointed to the injection gun in his hand. Mr. Hanmer, Mr. West, the potion I showed you in this experiment can't just be wasted like this. How about it? As one of the developers, I make a decision to give me a 20% discount and pay Dr. Connors and me $800,000 as a viewing fee. I think the two of you will not mind this little money, right? Saying that, looked at Harry. Harry understood. As good friends who have played since childhood, although they have been separated for 3 years, they still know Chen Hui's pretend routine Harry very clearly. So he coughed dryly. Both, if that's the case, let's stop our discussion tonight. I have something to do, so I won't accompany you. As for the $800,000, you can transfer it to the account I gave you in advance. I think, you shouldn't rely on such a small amount of money, right? Harry smiled slightly, stood up, and looked towards Peter and Dr. Connors. Doctor, you have worked hard this time, and let you and your assistant make this trip for nothing. It doesn't matter. After all, business talks are not something that can be done in one go. Dr. Connors is also a fine person. At this moment, if you look at it for a while, you can see the current situation. And he also knows about Justin Hanmer. He knows that the other party is a famous profiteer. It is even more difficult to get him to nod. Not cooperating with him is the best choice right now. And as for now, whether they can leave safely under Hanmer's nose. Dr. Connors is not worried about this at all. Even Dr. Octopus has been brought over by Chen Hui and the others. He can imagine that if Hanmer dares to do it, what will happen? Wait. Suddenly Hanmer opened his mouth and sneered, Mr. Harry Osborn, on my territory, do you think, you can leave so easily? And, with all due respect, you come to discuss business as if you are here to play house. It seems that you don't even bring a bodyguard? I also admire your courage. There was an obvious threat in the words. Excuse me, Mr. Justin Hanmer, I think you have made a mistake. Harry turned back and sneered, this is my territory, my Osborn Enterprise territory. As for the bodyguards, do you think that a few superficial bodyguards around you can really protect you? After finishing speaking, he left without the slightest politeness. You. Hanmer's face froze, and he looked at Harry's leaving back with a murderous look in his eyes. Hanmer, what do we do now? Let them go like this. West said. Let go? Put his mother's shit on. Hammer slapped the table directly. West, no matter what method you use, take all of these people away. Humph, since God specially sent someone to give us good things, how is it possible not to? We must get the formula of lizard healing medicine. Chapter 31. Excuse me, may I ask how to get to the bathroom here? Suddenly Chen Hui looked at Lucio, who was leading the way. At the same time, he quietly winked at Peter and the others. Several people understood. They have noticed that the number of mercenaries following them has almost doubled, and it doesn't look like they are being sent back, but rather like they are going to be imprisoned somewhere. Looks like it's time to do it. Harry clenched his fists, a little excited and a little nervous in his heart. Peter looked like a veteran, casually looking around, actually ready to fight at all times. Dr. Connors was one of the calmest. Even though Dr. Connors has returned to his human form, he is actually still the Dr. Lizard, possessing the super self-healing ability and strength of a lizard. Come with me. When Lucio heard this, his eyes flickered slightly. According to the information just received, the higher authorities want to arrest these people, especially Chen Hui and Dr. Connors, who know how to develop the lizard healing medicine. Since this Chen Hui is going to the bathroom, it's just right, take this opportunity to catch him first. Thinking of this, behind the goggles, Lucio's eyes shone with a strange luster. Soon. Led by Lucio, the two found the bathroom, but just as Chen Hui was about to go in, a big hand suddenly grabbed Chen Hui's shoulder. Humph! Chen Hui snorted coldly in his heart, and he did it. This Lucio has been wearing dark goggles at night, telling others nakedly that his eyes have supernatural powers. As a veteran Marvel fan, Chen Hui, if he can't even see this routine, then he should stop messing around in the Marvel world. So at the moment when Lucio caught him, Chen Hui didn't look back, relying on spider telepathy's prediction, he directly kicked sideways, with tons of force, and directly kicked Lucio's body. Boom! The air is kicked out. Then came the screams. Looking back, I saw Lucio's whole face was stupefied, half of his goggles were taken off, and he was kicked against the wall by Chen Hui. The huge amounts of force caused cracks in the wall. You. Lucio looked at Chen Hui with a look of disbelief. Interesting. Chen Hui walked up to Lucio and said with a smile, sure enough, you are a supernatural person with an ordinary physique, even if you are a mercenary, you will be kicked to death by my kick, but you still to be able to wake up. This point can only be achieved by supernatural beings with higher physical fitness than ordinary people. Okay, Lucio, tell me your ability, and your real identity, mutant, or other types of supernatural beings? Inhumans. Hey, my ability, you take off my glasses and try it yourself, you'll know. Lucio regained his composure and grinned grinningly. Oh. Chen Hui's eyes flashed. It seems that this guy's eyes should have a special function. Something like Cyclops, or something else. Chen Hui was a little curious. Okay, since you want to take off your glasses so much, I will grant your wish. A smile appeared on the corner of Chen Hui's mouth. Swish! He picked up Lucio, who was like a dead dog, and went back the same way. When he returned to the original place, he saw Peter, Harry, and Dr. Connors standing there. And beside them, all the mercenaries fell to the ground. Chen Hui was not surprised by this scene. Without further ado, he grabbed a mercenary and took off Lucio's goggles. Feeling that his goggles were taken off, Lucio roared and wanted to turn his head to Chen Hui and the others, but unfortunately, under Chen Hui's power, he had no resistance at all, and could only be forced by Chen Hui next. Look at the mercenary. The mercenary looked into Lucio's eyes, his eyes widened suddenly, his face turned blue, and his whole body was stiff, unable to move, as if he had been paralyzed. So that's it, it's a supernatural eye with the ability to paralyze. Chen Hui's eyes lit up. Peter, come with me, Harry, Doctor, you two are waiting for us outside, Peter and I will come as soon as we go. Chen Hui looked at several people and said. It is good. Several people nodded, and they all understood what Chen Hui was thinking. Now that he has completely torn skins with Hammer, he simply does not stop and arrests Hammer. Although Hammer has a big background, Queens is Osborn's territory right now, and he wants to erase Hammer's influence in Queens. District trails, very simple. What's more, Hammer himself said that he came here temporarily, and basically no one knew his whereabouts. However, Dr. Connors thought more about it. Chen Hui, Hammer is a billionaire after all. He has great personal influence and is a hot potato. We can't keep him for too long, and it's even more impossible to kill him. Are you going to what to do with him? Don't worry, Doctor, I will give you a satisfactory answer. An inscrutable smile appeared on the corner of Chen Hui's mouth. Meeting room. Hammer was chatting easily with West. In their view, it was too easy to catch 5 of a dozen mercenaries. Hammer, when you get the formula, what are you going to do with Harry Osborn? After all, he is the only son of Norman Osborn, so it's not easy to deal with. Hee, West, you were very brave on the battlefield, but why are you so cowardly here? To tell you the truth, Norman Osborn is like trash in my eyes. Wow! Suddenly the door was opened. Hammer frowned and was about to scold him, but at this moment, his body froze suddenly. Because at this moment, a person whose whole body was tied into a ball, and even his mouth and eyes were blocked by a white unknown substance flew towards them. Boom! He fell hard on the long table. Okay. West immediately recognized that this was his subordinate, and frowned immediately. Lucio? What happened? It's nothing, it's my boss, I want to take you back to chat. Especially you, Mr. Justin Hammer. Chen Hui and Peter walked in. But unlike before, both he and Peter are wearing Venom battle suits. You are? Hammer swallowed, realizing that something was wrong, and quietly reached out to the mobile phone on the table. West raised his gun directly. Chi. But suddenly, 2 spider webs shot at them, causing the 2 of them to be tied up instantly, and both the gun and the mobile phone fell to the ground. Justin Hammer, I advise you, it's better not to act rashly. Chen Hui grabbed Lucio and tore off the cobweb covering his eyes, making his eyes paralyzed, staring at the 2 of them for a moment. The 2 of them froze, and as their faces turned blue, they both fell to the ground. Mr. Justin Hammer, my boss, Mr. Osborn has a gift for you, I hope you like it. Chen Hui squatted down and patted Hammer's face. Oh, by the way, we are Mr. Osborn's bodyguards, and he expressed his dissatisfaction with your behavior. This time I will take you back to chat, there should be no what a good thing, I hope you are mentally prepared. PSST. As he spoke, suddenly a bony spur emerged from Chen Hui's hand. With a swipe, he neatly cut a wound on the back of Hammer's neck, and quickly stuffed an iron-like thing into it. Hammer suddenly opened his eyes wide, and he could faintly see the inside, tears streaming out, full of fear. He's about to cry. What happened to these 2 perverts who popped out of nowhere? This seems to be different from the Osborn Company he is investigating. West is about to cry even more at this moment. Is the Osborn Company that he agreed to be rubbish? What about you, Hammer Industries, you are awesome. What about grabbing the other party's medicine formula by force and capturing the other party? Why is he the one being arrested now? His intestines are turning green when he regrets it now. I shouldn't have listened to Hammer's words and provoked Harry Osborn. But it's useless to regret now. As the spider webs shot out piece by piece from Peter's hand, wrapping the 2 like rice dumplings, Chen Hui directly picked up Hammer and Lucio, while Peter grabbed West, and quickly went outside, and soon disappeared. Chapter 32. Under the light, a silver liquid was circulating in the experimental test tube, emitting a gleam of cold light. As it was poured, the silver liquid flowed into a precision instrument, and soon formed a silver metal piece, which landed on a sterile cotton. 2 light fingertips, covered with a strange black substance, gently lifted the silver metal piece and placed it under the microscope. Chi. At the same time, 2 drops of blood covered the silver metal sheet, causing a trace of mist to rise. Gene fusion reaction, success. The next step is to integrate the symbiont, the 23rd record, start. Chen Hui muttered to himself. At the same time, he adjusted the recording camera, took a deep breath facing the camera, and picked up a special metal dropper, from which a drop of black liquid dripped. The black liquid directly covered the silver metal sheet with a hint of blood, making the entire microscope black. Chen Hui's expression didn't change much, and he watched quietly. Suddenly, the black liquid moved, shrinking rapidly like a conscious living thing. Looking through the microscope, one can clearly see that there are extremely fine holes on the silver metal sheet, which seem to be sorted according to a certain genetic rule, making this small hole as a whole look like a strange mark from a distance. And the black liquid, when it shrank, completely shrank into the small hole, making this strange mark even more obvious. Chen Hui's eyes lit up when he saw this. Symbiont integrate, success. Next, carry out the last step of the experiment. Chen Hui looked excited, but he took a deep breath, calmed down, picked up a metal instrument of the size of a pen, and put it on the silver metal sheet. A strange scene appeared, the metal piece swished, and it was actually sucked into it, and on it, a percentage number was displayed, and when it reached 100%, a line of words appeared on it. Degaussing succeeded. It was only then that Chen Hui stepped forward, came to a glass cabinet where the mouse was placed, grabbed the mouse, and then directly pointed the end of the pen-like metal instrument at the mouse's spine. PSST. The end pierces the mouse's spine and sends the metal piece in. Okay, all the steps are completed, waiting for the result. Chen Hui looked at the little white mouse nervously. Suddenly, squeak! The little white mouse screamed twice, fell to the ground and twitched. Chen Hui stared at this, with some disappointment. He was about to dispose of the twitching little white mouse, but at this moment, the little white mouse stopped twitching, stood up, and stared at Chen Hui blankly. This scene made Chen Hui slightly stunned, followed by surprise. There's a show. With an excited expression, he directly waved at the little white mouse. The little white mouse tilted its head, followed by a jump, and actually jumped directly from the ground into Chen Hui's hands. This kind of jumping ability was beyond the reach of a little white mouse. Did it? Chen Hui was not surprised. He looked at the mouse carefully, and suddenly his eyes flashed. In the hair of the mouse's neck, where the metal sheet was injected, he found a light black mark. It is on the metal sheet that the symbiont tissue is integrated, and the imprint formed is like a black crescent. Chen Hui was amazed. Next, the last experiment. He didn't speak, nor did he give any action instructions to the little white mouse, but gathered his energy and gave instructions to the little white mouse in his heart. The instruction command is, raise the right paw. The little white mouse was still staring blankly at Chen Hui, but suddenly, without any warning, the little white mouse raised its right paw. Chen Hui was instantly ecstatic. Biological control chip. It's finally a complete success. It has been 10 days since Hanmer was captured. These days, Chen Hui has been immersed in the research of Dr. Octopus's bioreaction chip. Through research, he found that the value contained in this chip far exceeded his expectations. Although it has not been fully researched, just the initial research is enough to bring great benefits to Chen Hui. For example, at this moment, biological control chip. This is the value that Chen Hui discovered at the beginning of his research, and even made a rough one. In the end, he broke his face with hammer, and he forced the rough product directly into Hammer's body to see the effect. The principle of the biological control chip is to control the human nervous system so that others can obey their orders. The crude control chip still has some effect. Chen Hui used this chip to ask Hanmer to inform his company that he was on vacation. Otherwise, Hanmer's disappearance for 10 days would definitely attract the attention of the middle and high-level people of Hanmer industry, and various unpredictable things would happen. However, a rough product is a rough product after all, and it will be scrapped soon. And Chen Hui also found many loopholes. After 10 days of research and improvement, and more than 20 failures, Chen Hui has finally made the control chip completely. Because it is integrated into the symbiont organization he controls, Chen Hui can even use his mind to forcibly control it without speaking. Other people's bodies. Definitely, the premise is that the opponent's will is not strong. However, if it is controlled by my biological chip, it will show this pale black crescent mark, which is a bit like the curse mark that Orochimaru gave Junmaru and others. How about, make my biological control chip a name code? Right now, this one is called Curse Seal 1. Chen Hui smiled. After taking out the first generation of the Curse Seal, and then disinfecting and inspecting it for perfection, Chen Hui put it away directly and left the laboratory. By the way, one more thing, this laboratory was bought by Chen Hui in an abandoned factory, and he temporarily built it. Only Peter and Harry know about it for the time being, and Dr. Connors doesn't know about it. This is also the prototype of his own laboratory in the future. Hammer, West, and Lucio, who has the ability to paralyze the eye, were imprisoned here. Clang! As the rusty iron door was opened, Chen Hui came into a room. This is where Hanmer was imprisoned. Chapter 33. The room was transformed into a cage. Hanmer sat in it with disheveled hair and dirty body. As soon as Chen Hui came to this room, the venom battlesuit covered his whole body, concealed his identity, and walked up to Hammer. Hammer raised his head suddenly and saw Chen Hui, who was covered in a venom battlesuit all over his body. His pupils shrank slightly, his whole body trembled, showing fear, but he still spoke quickly. "My friend, how much money does Osborn pay you? How about I give you double, oh no, triple, quadruple, or even 5 times? I, Hammer Industries, have much more money than Osborn. You let me go, I swear, the money will be in your account within a minute, as long as you let me go." Chen Hui smiled when he heard this. "Oh? Really? Since you are so rich, why should I let you go immediately? Lock you here, and when you run out of money, just threaten and intimidate you. A sum of money is like a hen that lays golden eggs, why would I let a hen that lays golden eggs go away? You." Hammer's expression changed immediately, and he was extremely ugly. "You are a devil. You are a devil. You must die. Sooner or later, Death God will take you to hell and cut you into pieces." "Hee, Hammer, I advise you to calm down." Chen Hui sneered, "Because someone brought you a good thing, and this thing, to be honest, should cause you some bad memories." As he spoke, Chen Hui picked up a syringe containing the first generation of the curse seal, which looked like a pen. At the same time, he grabbed Hammer, exposing the back of his neck. Seeing this, Hammer felt Chen Hui's movements, his pupils shrank even more, and there was a dull pain in the back of his neck, as if he remembered something. His expression changed suddenly, showing fear, like a woman who was RD and screamed. "Call. No. Don't. You can't do this." "Aha!" Chen Hui inserted the syringe into the back of Hammer's neck without the slightest politeness. With the sound of PSST, the first generation of the curse seal entered the link of Hammer's spine and brain, directly controlling Hammer's nervous response system. Hammer's expression froze suddenly. But it quickly returned to normal. Looking at Chen Hui, he lowered his head with a respectful expression. "Sir, Justin Hammer is always on call for you." "Okay." Chen Hui nodded. Looking at the back of Hammer's neck, he saw a mark like a black crescent moon, which was the sign that the first generation of the curse mark had successfully controlled the opponent's nervous response system, thereby controlling the brain. Chen Hui can use the first generation of the curse to brainwash Hammer, erase part of his memory, and make him his servant. "Okay, Hammer, inform your people and let them pick you up. It's time for you to leave your comfortable vacation time. In addition, when you go back, send me all the news about Vibranium, its sellers, contact information, specific background, etc., in the form of secret emails, understand?" Chen Hui issued a series of orders. "Clear." Hammer nodded respectfully. Next, Chen Hui created 2 first-generation of curse seals, which were used to control West and Lucio, who has the ability to paralyze the eye. These 2 people are much stronger than Hammer, and Chen Hui brutally abused him. It was only after 2 battles that they were brought under control. After controlling it, there is nothing wrong with these 3 people for the time being, so let them go back to Hammer Industries together to collect all the news about Vibranium for themselves. With Hammer Industries, who was originally not inferior to Stark Industries, he didn't have to bother to use lizard healing medicine to expand his contacts and channels. Hammer originally had a lot of contacts and channels, and he could fully use them. Phew. On the one hand, the information collection about the Vibranium project is on the agenda, and we just need to wait for the news. Next, do your best to fully research Dr. Octopus's bioreaction chip, and cultivate the bone vein. Chen Hui picked up the tablet and recorded his plan. The cultivation of the bone meridian is very simple, just remember to use all your abilities proficiently every day, and combine them with your own fighting technique. Definitely, in terms of fighting technique, it is still not enough to practice alone, so Peter and Harry have to be brought together to practice against each other from time to time. But after being abused by Chen Hui for a long time, these 2 guys have also become like thieves. Every time Chen Hui called them out, they pushed and shoved and couldn't find a reason. This made Chen Hui quite depressed and couldn't help sighing. It would be great if there is a guy who is very strong in fighting technique, who often practice with me, and can't be killed. Although I am emotional, the main core task now is to thoroughly research the chip and make preliminary preparations for my full skeleton vibranium plan. Simply spend more time on chip research. But after the research, especially after 50% of the progress, the speed became slower and slower, and even a 1% progress would take Chen Hui 3 weeks. During this period, his private laboratory was also decorated more and more perfect. And Hammer has also sent a lot of information about vibranium one after another, but it is not too critical and useful. Unknowingly, it has been 3 months since Hammer went back to collect information. On this day, Chen Hui was doing an experiment. Suddenly did it die. The computer shows that a new email has been sent. Chapter 34. Okay. Chen Hui looked over. The email was sent by Hammer, but this time it was a video file, which was different from the past. Chen Hui opened the video. I saw Hammer in the office, and said to Chen Hui with a mysterious face, "Boss, there is good news this time. My business friend in South Africa knew that I was looking for vibranium news, sold me a favor, and told me about vibranium. Suspected information about vibranium. In a remote small village in South Africa, a meteorite once fell to the ground, which is very similar to the meteorite that produced vibranium, so I spent a lot of money looking for it. In the end, look what I found?" As Hammer said, he picked up a small box in his hand and opened it. From it emerged a fingernail file-sized, extremely thin silver metal sheet, which at first glance looked a bit like his Curse Seal 1 generation chip. This is vibranium. He collected a lot of information about vibranium these days, and at a glance he saw that this piece of metal was vibranium. But, a little small. Boss, if you think about it, you can see that this is vibranium. I used the most top-level refining process to extract this vibranium, although it is smaller. If you are not satisfied with the boss, I will continue to get more vibranium. My people will be able to convince those NGS in Wakanda very quickly. If it doesn't work, I will fund Ulysses, and grab it back. But I don't like Ulysses very much, he is too greedy, and Stark it's too close. Chen Hui's heart moved when he heard this. Ulysses Crow, the black market arms dealer who sold vibranium in Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, had his right arm broken by Ultron. So far, it looks like the guy hasn't succeeded in getting vibranium. Send vibranium over here, Wakanda, let's continue the negotiation. If you can get vibranium, it's good, if you can't get it, don't force it. Chen Hui sent back a message. Remind Hammer not to make troubles in Wakanda, which is the hometown of Black Panther. If Hammer angers Black Panther and loses his life, then it will be difficult for him to control such a billion-dollar property as Hammer Industry Group. As for the problem that the piece of vibranium is too small, Chen Hui doesn't care. What he wants to study is the elements in vibranium. This special element that is not on the periodic table is the key to the formation of vibranium. It is also the key to his full skeleton vibranium. After all, he is not like Wolverine, forcibly injecting adamantium into the skeleton, but is going to integrate vibranium elements into osteoblasts, so that his own bones can appear in vibraniumized form at will. This form is also the best demagnetization. Even after integrating with bone elements, it will not reveal the characteristics of metal substances. After all, it can be formed by cells in the state of bones. Strictly speaking, it is no longer a metal. That way we don't have to be afraid of that guy Magneto in the future. However, the incorporation of vibranium elements will inevitably destroy part of the atomic structure of vibranium, which may lead to the final properties, which are not as good as the real vibranium. I have to find a way to solve this. It's a pity that the formula of adamantium is strictly kept secret by the government, otherwise it can be researched here. By the way, here is the difference between vibranium and adamantium. Vibranium is extracted from meteorites that fell on the Earth, mainly in Africa, from outer space. Its hardness and density are not as good as adamantium, but its stability and durability are much stronger than adamantium, and it can absorb almost infinite energy. Simply put, vibranium is durable and suitable for research into defensive items. And adamantium has high hardness and strong penetrating power, so it is suitable to be developed into an attack weapon. And adamantium, originally a strange mixture alloy formed by iron, vibranium and an unknown catalyst during World War II, called original adamantium. Interestingly, the manufacturer fell asleep in the laboratory at the beginning, and many raw materials were spontaneously combined to form the original adamantium, so even the manufacturer did not know the formula of this adamantium. Simply put, this piece of original adamantium, there is one and only one. This original adamantium later became Captain America's shield. Then the researchers created a adamantium that does not contain vibranium, called true adamantium, which is also the adamantium injected into Wolverine's body, and its properties are almost exactly the same as the original adamantium. The days of experimental research continue. Soon the small piece of vibranium was sent by Hammer, and Chen Hui couldn't wait to study it, but finally found that although vibranium is easy to shape and process, its atomic structure is extremely stable. If you want to extract that special element from it, you need a high-grade particle accelerator for impact, such as the accelerator used by Tony to extract new energy elements in iron Man2. In addition, at the end of the bioreaction chip research, Chen Hui found that, in order to use a cell as a unit to catalyze the formation of arc reactor through the bioreaction chip, a key problem must be overcome. It is the specific composition of the miniature arc reactor. These are the two most critical questions. And the strange thing is, these two questions point to one person, Iron Man. It seems that no matter who it is, once they arrive in the Marvel world, they will have to get involved with Iron Man. Chen Hui has a headache. Although he was originally a Marvel fan, after he really came to the Marvel world, he no longer regards Iron Man Tony Stark as a superhero, but a mentality similar to a competitor. He'll be stronger, richer, and more influential than Iron Man. One day, the name of Dr. Chen Hui will spread throughout the entire Earth, and even the entire omnipotent universe. As for the particle accelerator, it's easy to do. It's not a problem to ask Hammer to spend more money to get a professional one. As for the arc reactor, should I grab it? Or should I grab it? Or should I grab it? Chen Hui was caught in a tangle. Chapter 35. But having said that, it seems that Iron Man is not the only one who has the miniature arc reactor. Chen Hui's eyes flickered. Calculating the time a little bit, it was almost 6 months after Tony Stark revealed his identity as Iron Man. And 6 months later, it was also the moment when the plot of Iron Man 2 began to progress. Search for information about Iron Man Tony Stark, and make sure the timeline is the same as the original plot, or at least similar. Chen Hui began to collect information. First of all, he searched the internet, and finally found that the government had issued a denunciation of Stark's Iron Man armor weapon, stating that this weapon needs to be kept by the government. Chen Hui sneered when he saw this. In the past, it seemed that this denunciation was purely a denunciation of the government, but if you think about it carefully, there is no shadow of Hydra in it. He knows that there are a large number of Hydra agents lurking in the current S.H.I.E.L.D. government. And Hydra will not give up any chance to strengthen their own strength. The Iron Man battlesuit will undoubtedly make their strength a milestone improvement, and they naturally want to do everything possible to get it. In fact, many people have fallen into a misunderstanding. As long as a superhero like Iron Man appears in the world, S.H.I.E.L.D. will pay close attention to it immediately, and then monitor and control it. If it can be pulled into the S.H.I.E.L.D. warship, it will be pulled into the S.H.I.E.L.D. warship, and if it cannot be pulled into it, it will be included. In the alert range, a powerful intelligence ability and control ability are displayed. But in fact, many of them are secretly planning conspiracies in Hydra, and they are constantly strengthening themselves with the help of S.H.I.E.L.D. Perhaps one day the agent who knocks on your door and comes to find you is not the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, but the Hydra agent lurking in S.H.I.E.L.D., ready to pull you into the pit of Hydra Hail. Hey? A prisoner escaped from prison in Ross, Russia, and is suspected to have entered the US border. Suddenly Chen Hui noticed the news. Opening the slightly blurred photo of the prisoner, he immediately saw a middle-aged man with disheveled hair, looking very distressed, but those eyes made Chen Hui feel that this man was not simple. Ivan Vank. Webb. The name quickly flashed across Chen Hui's mind. This person is the big boss in Iron Man 2, and also Chen Hui's second target besides Iron Man. Ivan Vank, who can also make a miniature arc reactor, is nicknamed Whiplash. But now this guy seems to have escaped not long ago, maybe in which corner to make the arc reactor and the Whip exoskeleton battlesuit. Ivan Vank will also make a miniature arc reactor. I can't just focus on Iron Man. I also have to pay close attention to this Whip. Chen Hui's eyes flashed brightly. Now that he decided to snatch the arc reactor, and found out about the Whip rope, Chen Hui decided to grab it with both hands at the same time, so as to prevent one way from being less successful, and there is another way to make himself retreat. Beep beep. Suddenly the voice of the secret mail rang again. Chen Hui opened it. It was still Hammer's, but this time it was not about vibranium, but an invitation letter with the word hearing written on it. After a closer look at the content, Chen Hui was immediately delighted. This is an invitation letter to invite Justin Hammer to participate in Tony Stark and the government's hearing on whether the steel battlesuit should be kept by the government. Tony hands over the Iron Man battlesuit. Okay, I was a little puzzled at first, why the government hasn't held a hearing yet. I really said that CAO will be there soon. Just take this opportunity to approach Tony Stark to see if there is a chance to get an arc reactor. Definitely, at the same time, I also want Hammer to do his best to search for this guy. If he can be caught in advance, or even controlled with the first generation of curse, then there will be no worries about arc reactor in the future. Chen Hui planned step by step. Afterwards, Chen Hui contacted Hammer and gave him a bunch of tasks, including purchasing a professional high-end particle accelerator, searching for information about Yvonne Vank, and creating an identity for him so that he could get close to Tony Stark and so on. After finishing all this, Chen Hui started to set off. Go to the government hearings against Tony Stark. The hearing will be held in 3 days. On this day, there was a huge crowd of people in front of the hearing hall, and there were reporters with long guns and short guns everywhere. Suddenly, the voices of the crowd rose, and I saw an Audi R8 supercar driving from a distance, accompanied by a beautiful drift. The supercar stopped, and a man wearing sunglasses and a casual suit walked out of it. Mr. Stark, what are your thoughts on the upcoming hearing? A boring old people's party. Some people say that your steel battlesuit is the most dangerous weapon. What's your attitude towards this, Mr. Stark? Help me buy him a cane. Remember, it needs the made brand. Mr. Stark, Iron Man, superhero, you are so handsome, I will give you a monkey. Oh, thanks, I'm not gay. A group of people followed Tony Stark and yelled, like a group of fans surrounded their own star, and a group of government officials in the hearing hall were extremely speechless, posing with a headache. Damn Stark, I will kill him sooner or later. Hammer Industries, are the strongest. Hammer was at the guest table, gnashing his teeth. And Chen Hui was sitting next to him, dressed in black, looking very low-key. At this moment, he had an interesting look on his face, watching Tony Stark approaching from the entrance of the hall, the corners of his mouth slowly curled up into a smile. Chapter 36. The content of the hearing was uninteresting. It's not a movie, but it's even more boring than a movie. Chen Hui yawned after watching it. It's nothing more than that Stark Industry shouldn't be so selfish, and should hand over armor weapons to the state for management and so on. The only thing to watch is that Tony Stark forcibly pretended, controlled the screen, and broke the news that various countries imitated him to manufacture steel armor, but there was no successful scene. This scene made Hammer very angry, because there was also a scene where he failed in Hammer Industry, but under Chen Hui's forcible control, Hammer didn't get mad, just kidding, he came here to take the opportunity to get close to Tony Stark. Definitely you have to have a good relationship first. And as for things like stabbing, you have to do it secretly. Hammer's calm posture attracted Tony's attention, and he couldn't help but look over. But his eyes did not fall on Hammer in the end, because at this time Chen Hui also looked at him, smiled and nodded at him, which made Tony's attention had to be attracted. Okay. Tony was a little surprised. As a competitor, Stark Industry knew the basics of Hammer Industries' investigation. Justin Hammer, as well as some important people around Hammer, he knew. But who is this young and overly Asian teenager? Seeing that he is sitting next to Hammer, and Hammer seems to be respectful to him, his status should be very high. A trace of curiosity surged in Tony's heart. Congressional hearings are coming to an end. The next thing is Stark Industrial Expo. This unprecedented industrial expo, Hammer Industry is naturally in the ranks of invitations. Chen Hui and Hammer came to the venue of the expo. I do not know whether it is a coincidence or what, when entering, unexpectedly collided with Tony Stark and Pepper who entered with him. Hee, Tony, I have to say, your performance at the hearing was really eye-catching, and you made another wave of limelight. Hammer finally couldn't help it at this moment, with obvious sneers and sarcasm in his words. Oh, don't pretend to be Hammer, I know you're actually jealous of me. Tony raised his eyebrows and smiled. It's a pity that not everyone can do such things as being in the limelight, especially you today. Why didn't you say much at the hearing? Could it be that some old woman squeezed your body dry last night? Oh, I have to say, Hammer, your taste is really the strongest among the people I've ever met. You. Hammer was about to lose his temper. Hello, Mr. Stark. Miss Potts. At this moment, Chen Hui suddenly stretched out his hand, looking at Tony and a blonde girl beside Tony. This blonde is Tony's girlfriend and the current CEO of Stark Industries, Pepper. Hello. Pepper shook hands very politely, Her eyes were full of strangeness, she seemed to have never seen such a young Asian boy beside Hammer. She couldn't help asking curiously, I don't know if you are. Let me introduce myself, my name is Chen Hui. Chen Hui smiled, I've been admiring Little Pepper for a long time. It's said that behind a successful man there must be a woman who has the ability to silently support him. Now it seems that's true. Without you, Mr. Stark would have to maintain the company. It must be very troublesome if you want to be a superhero to maintain world peace, right? This sentence immediately amused Little Pepper, her pretty face blushed, and she waved her hands and said, where is it? I'm just used to handling things for Tony. Tony also showed a funny smile. He had been a little curious about Chen Hui's identity before, but now he saw Chen Hui's humorous conversation without losing his demeanor, and there was a hint of praise for him, so he couldn't help feeling a little fond of Chen Hui. This is really a rare thing for him, and even he himself feels a little surprised. Your name is Chen Hui. Suddenly Tony seemed to remember something, and said, I heard that Osborn in Queens has a genius boy in the field of biological genetic science, can it be you? Yes, it's me. Chen Hui smiled and nodded. I was a little surprised in my heart, I didn't expect Tony to have heard of his name. In fact, Osborn Company is still very famous in New York. Although it is not as rich as Stark Industries, it is very strong in the field of special weapon manufacturing and biochemistry. There was no reason why Tony didn't know about the existence of Osborn Corporation. Therefore, it is normal to have heard the name of Chen Hui, a talented boy. Let me introduce you, Tony, Miss Potts. Pretend naturally needs to install a full set, so Chen Hui immediately controlled Hammer and began to further pretend, this is Dr. Chen Hui, a former genius boy from Osborn Company, and now he is the chief bioscience consultant of my Hammer industry. Dr. Chen Hui he is very good at biogenetic science, and also has outstanding achievements in the field of biomedicine. Tony, I think you look very bad recently. How about asking Dr. Chen Hui to give you a full body examination and prepare some medicine for you? You don't think Dr. Chen Hui is young, but even some seniors in this industry can't compare with him. Tony frowned instantly. Hammer, don't be joking, I am in such a good body, how can I be sick? Tony glanced at Little Pepper, and then said in a disdainful tone, I think you have kidney deficiency and need to be treated. Let's go, Pepper. Tony was about to pull Chili Pepper away, but at this moment, Chen Hui suddenly took a step forward and whispered in Tony's ear, Mr. Stark, palladium poisoning is not something that can be easily tolerated, do you think can you hide from Miss Potts till you die? After speaking, Chen Hui smiled and nodded to Tony as if nothing had happened, then walked away, and Hammer quickly followed. Okay. Tony's pupils shrank slightly, Chen Hui's words were too fast, he only realized it now, but when he realized it, he raised his head, only to see that Chen Hui had gone far away, leaving only his back. Dr. Chen Hui. Tony murmured in his heart, looking at Chen Hui's back, there was a little difference in his eyes. Chapter 37. In the middle of the night of the expo, there was still a lot of voices. Amidst the noise, passionate dance music sounded, causing people to writhe their limbs involuntarily. No one noticed that in the dim corner of the light, a figure quickly passed by. This figure is Chen Hui. At this moment, he was wearing a venom battle suit, moving forward quickly, and soon came under a tall building, which is well known because it is the central hub of the Stark Enterprise, Stark Building. And Chen Hui understands this better, because he understands that this super building will be the base of Avengers in the future. Call. Chen Hui was extremely fast, and with the afterimage passing by, he came to a very dimly lit place in an instant. With one step, he walked straight up to the wall, galloping up as if walking on flat ground. It seems that my integration of Peter's spider wall climbing ability is still very correct. Otherwise, it would not be easy to overcome many obstacles and reach the roof of the building. Chen Hui felt a little emotional in his heart. His purpose of coming to the Stark building is very simple, because at the moment, Tony is on the building, and he is alone. He came here just to see if there was a chance to snatch the arc reactor from Tony. Whizzing! Boom! Soon Chen Hui came to the roof of the Stark building, his figure fell, and his footsteps were very light. There are basically panoramic floor-to-ceiling skylights here, so the scene inside is basically clear at a glance. Okay. Suddenly Chen Hui's eyes moved. He saw a figure sitting on the other side of the roof hall, covered in a golden-red steel battle suit, with a helmet on the side, and a large wine box beside him, filled with cold air, several bottles of champagne neatly placed in. This figure is none other than Iron Man Tony Stark. At this moment, he looked sad, holding the wine glass in his hand, drank it in one gulp, and then poured himself another glass. While drinking, he watched the carnival of the people in the expo below the building, with a lonely arc curled up at the corner of his mouth. Looking at it like this, it seems that the palladium element poisoning is very serious now. Otherwise, with Tony's temper, he should be partying downstairs all night instead of drinking alone here. Chen Hui's eyes flickered. He knows that the current Iron Man seems to be in a good position, with both fame and fortune, and is accompanied by a confidant. In fact, due to palladium poisoning, he knows that he will not live long. Everyone will be depressed. But, this is his best chance to capture the arc reactor. Others want to snatch Tony's arc reactor, which is tantamount to killing Tony, but who is Dr. Chen Hui? As long as he is willing, he can make Tony alive in minutes. He has a lizard healing medicine with him. He draws the arc reactor and injects him with a tube of healing medicine. Palladium toxin throughout the body. It's just that this removal is only temporary. As long as Tony still uses palladium as fuel energy in the future, he will always be poisoned by palladium until he researches new elements. It's just that it has nothing to do with Chen Hui. The so-called specialization in the art industry, his research on arc reactor is only to study its operation mode and shrinking principle, as well as the way it combines with the human heart, and apply it to biological cells. Thorough research, after all, its manufacturing principle has nothing to do with biology. Call. Suck. Chen Hui slowly approached Tony. Under his control, the Venom battle suit perfectly integrated with the surrounding environment and turned into darkness. At the moment Tony, although lonely, is the best moment for him to attack, but because he is wearing a steel battle suit, his fighting power is still extremely strong, and once the flight starts, Chen Hui can only stare blankly, so the action must be quick. Simply neat. Instantly destroys the flight engine of the steel battlesuit. In this way, he can take off Tony's steel battlesuit and finally capture the arc reactor. Step by step closer. Soon, the distance between the two was less than 10 meters, and Chen Hui was lying on the ceiling above Tony's head, as silent as a ghost. Suddenly. It's this time. Chen Hui's eyes narrowed sharply. At the moment Tony was drinking the wine in his hand. It was absolutely the best opportunity to attack. Chen Hui didn't have the slightest hesitation. Blinking past 10 meters away, he punched Tony in the head. If he can be stunned smoothly, then everything will be very convenient. But at this moment... Okay. Tony shrank his eyes slightly, because he suddenly saw a black shadow approaching from the reflection of the wine glass. Subconsciously, the energy injection device in his hand was turned on. With the fire in his palm, he moved forward a full 3 times. Meters, making Chen Hui punch the air. Made. Chen Hui was speechless. This guy is really a chicken thief, but it doesn't matter, if the first blow fails, then come the second blow. Chen Hui squashed Tony's steel helmet aside with one foot. He knew that there was a J.A.R.V.I.S brain in it, and there were various scanning analysis devices that could greatly increase Tony's combat power. At this moment, he squashed it flat. It was equivalent to losing half of Tony's fighting power. Seeing Chen Hui squash his helmet flat, Tony couldn't help but widen his eyes, and his face was stunned. His helmet is made of extremely hard metal, and it is difficult for a tank to crush it all at once. A strong force can only be crushed with one foot. But at this moment, he couldn't help being confused. Chen Hui couldn't hit him with one blow, and after squashing his helmet, he quickly launched a second blow, staring at the ground with his feet, and as the cracks opened, his whole body quickly hit Tony like a cannonball. At the same time, Chi. Several bone spurs spread out all over his body. Chapter 38. The bone spurs were like sharp blades, shining coldly. At this moment, Tony only felt that his whole body was locked by the opponent, and a strong sense of threat enveloped his heart. Whoosh! Without any hesitation, the energy flow spurted out from under his feet, ready to fly, but at this moment, Chen Hui's eyes flashed, his palm moved, and 2 bone spurs, under the huge amounts of throwing power, went straight towards the back of Tony's steel battlesuit. He shot at his feet, only heard 2 clang-clangs, the spray device on the bottom of the battlesuit was pierced by bone spurs, and sparks flew in all directions. Tony froze for a moment. The spraying device under his feet is also extremely strong. What kind of sharp bone spur and what kind of powerful force can penetrate it? Tony suddenly felt bad all over. He is Iron Man. What does steel no mean? Represents the protection like an iron wall. But right now, under the opponent's attack, why is it all like paper? Tony Stark, if I were you, the best choice now is to catch him without a fight. Seeing that Tony's flight injection device was broken, Chen Hui felt relieved and said something pretending. Filtered by the venom battle suit, his voice became deep and hoarse. Coupled with the appearance of his bony spurs at the moment, he looked very intimidating, and immediately bluffed Tony. Wait, friend. Tony stared at Chen Hui vigilantly, the palm of his hand flickered faintly, his eyes were a little nervous, but he tried his best to remain calm. I think before we fight, should we introduce each other? Look, you already know my name, go on. It's time for you to introduce yourself. Chen Hui showed an amused expression. He knew that Tony was a talker, and everything he said now was just delaying time. He didn't pay any attention to Tony's words, kicked the sole of his foot, and the powerful explosive force gave him unparalleled speed, and quickly approached Tony's body. Tony backed away quickly. At the same time, the palm cannon in his hand blasted at Chen Hui, one cannon after another. This palm cannon has great destructive power for ordinary people, but it has no effect at all in front of Chen Hui. The bones spread all over his body, and Tang Sanzi danced. The powerful skeletal defense forcibly resisted the palm cannon, followed by Chen Hui's direct punch, and hit Tony's steel battlesuit. Clang! As if the roar of metal and iron colliding sounded, Tony's eyes widened at this moment. He only felt Chen Hui's punch, as if it had a specific penetrating power. The terrifying power directly penetrated into the steel battlesuit and hit him, making him at this moment, his internal organs were churning, and a sense of suffocation surged from his heart. Seeing this, a bright light flashed in Chen Hui's eyes, and he had the upper hand at once, and he didn't hold back the slightest. He grabbed the steel battlesuit on Tony's body with both hands, and then, tore it. Wow! Wow! Clang! Boom! The steel battlesuit was directly torn into pieces under his 30 tons of terrifying force, and fell all over the ground. From a distance, the whole scene looked like Chen Hui was picking Tony's clothes. It looked a bit dirty. Tony was immediately in a daze. He has lived most of his life, and his clothes have been torn by women before, and his clothes have been torn by men. This is the first time for him. And it's his steel battlesuit that he's tearing up. Depend on. What is going on in this world? He was drinking here in a good manner, and suddenly he was attacked, and the attack was fine, but the other party was so strong that he was crazy, he was simply being abused by the other party. But even so, that's all. He's in a bad state today, and it's understandable that he was abused, but what the hell is the steel battlesuit being forcibly torn right now? And the other party is a man. What is going on in this world? Being pressed to the ground by Chen Hui and tearing apart the steel battlesuit, Tony's eyes were blank and he looked hopeless. When Chen Hui finally stripped off Tony's steel battlesuit, Tony lost his mind, his eyes were dazed, and he stared blankly at Chen Hui. When the clothes on his body were about to be taken off, he suddenly trembled and screamed. You pervert, what do you want to do? Let me tell you, Sergeant Tony Stark, can't be killed, I absolutely refuse to be gay. You pervert, get the hell out of here. Tony shouted loudly and kicked towards Chen Hui. Chen Hui dodged easily, and when he realized the meaning of Tony's words, he froze for a moment, followed by a funny smile on the corner of his mouth. The black eye sockets formed by the venom battlesuit narrowed, with a teasing voice, from his mouth sounded. Hey, Tony Stark, just follow me. As he said that, he grabbed Tony. The huge amounts of strength made Tony unable to resist at all. He could only stare blankly at Chen Hui tearing off his clothes, exposing his upper body. But at this moment, there was a wind blowing, and the cool feeling made Tony shiver suddenly, and he felt like crying. Chen Hui laughed, seeing the arc reactor on Tony's chest, his eyes lit up. Twice chi-chi. The sharp phalanges on the fingers protrude like sharp claws, and they are about to be taken out. But at this moment, the elevator door of the room on the top floor opened. Pepper was about to walk in with a file in his hand, but he happened to see Chen Hui on top and Tony on the bottom. This scene, especially when Tony was still shirtless, made this scene suddenly seem somewhat wild. Little Pepper was stunned. With a bang, the document in his hand fell. When Chen Hui saw Little Pepper coming, he frowned. Not only didn't he stop his movements, but he moved faster. After a while, he got the arc reactor in his hand, jumped up, and disappeared into the vast night outside. Chapter 39. My God! Tony! Losing the arc reactor, Tony's face suddenly turned pale. This is his energy supply. Once he leaves for a long time, the shrapnel left in his body will enter his heart, killing him. Seeing this, Little Pepper exclaimed, and immediately ran to Tony's side. Tony, how are you doing? Little Pepper looked a little at a loss. I'll call you an ambulance. Call an ambulance. Said quickly picked up the phone. Me. Tony panted heavily. Right now he is only in the Stark building, not his mansion in Malibu. There is not too advanced technology and electronic equipment, and there is no backup for arc reactor, plus he has palladium all over his body poisoned, and without energy supply, he will die soon. The desire to survive made Tony's head think quickly, looking for a way to survive. Suddenly, his eyes froze, and he remembered what Chen Hui said to him in the afternoon, and immediately grabbed Zijiali's hand and said, find Chen Hui. Drive. And at this moment, outside the top floor, Chen Hui, who was covered in a venom battle suit all over his body, flashed his eyes. Whoosh! Blink away. Inject anesthesia into the patient. Give me the scalpel. Inject number 1 test tube liquid medicine, check vital signs. The vital signs have stabilized. Continue the operation and inject the patient with number 2 test tube liquid. Hey! These shrapnel. Activate emergency measures, call out the number 3 test tube liquid medicine, and be on standby to inject patients. Under the dim light, Tony faintly heard a familiar voice ringing in his ears. He opened his eyes in a daze, and saw a young Chinese man wearing a mask, busy. Mr. Stark, I'm Chen Hui, I'm here to save you, don't worry, with me here, you will survive. Chen Hui's words rang in his ears. But before he finished listening, Tony closed his eyes and passed out again. Half an hour later, the door of the emergency room opened, and Chen Hui stepped out of it, took off his mask, revealing that handsome but too young face. There were already a sea of reporters waiting outside. Seeing Chen Hui's overly young face, everyone was taken aback, and immediately took the camera and moved closer with the microphone. Excuse me, are you Dr. Chen Hui? How is Mr. Stark? The operation was a success. Mr. Stark is blessed with life. He will survive. Dr. Chen Hui, why did Mr. Stark choose you to treat him instead of the hospital? As far as I know, you are from Hammer Industries, and Stark Industries and Hammer Industries have always been at odds. Does this move mean does Stark Industries and Hammer Industries have the possibility of cooperation in the future? Choose me, maybe because I'm close to Mr. Stark, he remembers me. As for the latter question, sorry, I don't know, but everything is possible. Dr. Chen Hui, with all due respect, you have achieved so much at such a young age. It is incredible to become a scientific consultant for Hammer Industries. Now you have saved the life of the famous Iron Man, Iron Man's lifesaver, my benefactor. What do you think about this? I was thinking, this kindness is enough for him to give me a few sets of armor. Haha, just kidding. Chen Hui was surrounded by reporters, but he didn't panic. Instead, he talked and laughed happily, causing the reporters to follow his rhythm. The originally chaotic scene now gave people a sense of order. And this scene was shown in front of everyone tonight with the live broadcast, making Chen Hui completely famous from tonight onwards. Young and promising, young fresh meat, humble and polite, humorous, and Iron Man's savior. All kinds of labels made Chen Hui a hit overnight, and made the headlines of various websites. From a slight name in the field of biology, he suddenly became an all-star idol. Various fighting events, achievements obtained in the competition. Immediately, another label was added to Chen Hui, a young genius fighting master, who has attracted countless girl fans. Good-looking, rich, talented, humorous, humble and polite, and also has good fighting skills, which girl doesn't regard such a boy as the lover of his dreams? In short, this night, Chen got angry. Everyone remembered a person's name. Chen Hui. Dr. Chen Hui. When everything subsided, Chen Hui returned to his room. Call. He let out a long sigh, and couldn't help feeling in his heart. Life is full of surprises. After taking away the arc reactor, he originally wanted to find an opportunity to inject Tony with lizard healing medicine to ensure that the product would not die, and then it would not concern him with anything, just take the thing and leave. But unexpectedly, Tony called him for treatment by name. This made Chen Hui a little surprised. Although this is also to save Tony, but the former is carried out secretly, while the latter is open to the public, and the nature is fundamentally different. The direct result of this is that Chen Hui became Iron Man's savior overnight. It quickly caught fire and became a public figure that attracted the attention of the entire United States and even the world. Compared with the former, the latter will undoubtedly bring great benefits to Chen Hui. It was a pleasant surprise. Look at what this arc reactor looks like. After a short rest, Chen Hui took out two things. One was a bottle with some black debris inside. These fragments were shrapnel from Tony's body, which he had removed during surgery. You must know that in this operation, Chen Hui not only injected Tony with lizard healing medicine, but also got a green goblin strengthening medicine, which is similar in nature to lizard healing medicine. Physical fitness. This greatly improved physical fitness made Tony's endurance ability and self-healing ability extremely strong, so that he could forcibly take out the shrapnel in a slightly brutal way without worrying about killing Tony. The second one is the arc reactor. Holding it in his hand, Chen Hui looked at the flickering light in the reactor, amazed, and fell into a crazy research without knowing it. Chapter 40. Soon the night passed. Chen Hui, who was deeply immersed in the state of crazy research, not only did not feel tired, but was full of energy, feeling that every cell in his body was jumping for joy. This surprised him. Could it be that now that I'm in a state of deep research, it's also good for the enhancement of cell activity? Chen Hui couldn't help thinking. But it was just a random thought. His attention was quickly attracted by the noisy voices outside the room. He opened the window and looked outside. His expression froze, and he saw that the outside was surrounded by reporters. There was no need to say anything. More than 100, Hammer and his bodyguards were in a state of desperation and frowning at the moment, resisting the entry of those enthusiastic reporters. Otherwise, Chen Hui's door might be directly broken down at this moment. My God, it's crazy. There are so many reporters, even I can't handle it. Chen Hui simply withdrew his head and continued to study the arc reactor. Anyway, he carried a lot of professional tools with him, and some instruments were also sent into the room by Hammer. He could just stay here and study for a week. Those reporters, it's impossible to stay outside for a week, right? No matter how bad it is, just put on the Venom battlesuit and leave. So under Chen Hui's instruction, Hammer finally said to the reporters, I'm sorry everyone, Dr. Chen Hui spent a lot of energy in the process of treating Mr. Stark, and needs to rest at this moment, please leave now. Many reporters immediately complained, but at least they got some news, that is, Dr. Chen Hui is ill. The reason why Chen Hui asked Hammer to say it casually was exaggerated by the media. In the end, it turned out that Chen Hui was sick in bed and extremely weak. There were even rumors that when Chen Hui was treating Tony Stark, he was already in poor health. It's comfortable, it's for Stark who is sick. Regardless of whether these rumors are true or not, they are all well known by the media. The most exaggerated news is that Chen Hui actually suffered from a special kind of brain tumor, which made him very smart at a young age, with an IQ higher than ordinary people. Several times, it was only in this way that he could achieve such an achievement at a young age, but because of this, his body was deteriorating. Even his body that had been trained in fighting all the year round couldn't stand it. Finally, he broke out after he successfully cured Tony Stark. When this news spread on the internet, it immediately exploded. Countless fans began to organize their own small teams to visit Chen Hui, among them were many beautiful girls, and even Chen Hui's fans in China, who came from China to catch a plane. So next, outside the villa where Chen Hui lived, there were more people. There were already a few reporters. There were more fans who made a special trip to visit Chen Hui. One by one, they opened banners that read, Dr. Chen Hui, come on, Dr. Chen Hui, you have a good rest, we are outside to protect you, Dr. Chen Hui, we love you, in other words. But that's not the point. The most important thing is that almost all of these fans are beautiful girls, making the outside of Chen Hui's villa almost a concentration of beautiful girls, causing many men to stop outside every day, stretch their necks, and look over here, come on, even those who are bold enough to strike up a conversation directly. In just a few days, outside the villa where Chen Hui lived, there were as many as 1,000 people. When Chen Hui accidentally looked up from his research and noticed this scene, his face was stunned. He never imagined that he had become so popular, especially when he saw those beautiful girls who were eye-catching. He sighed. Very emotional. Hey, sometimes being too good is also a mistake. Forget it, let's go out and have a look. We can't let them be stuck here all the time. How much it will affect the traffic. Let me alone bear the congestion caused by so many people. With that said, he opened the door and went straight out. Dr. Chen Hui is out. I don't know who it is. With extremely sharp eyes, I saw the figure of Chen Hui coming out of the villa at once, and immediately screamed. The others froze for a moment, then looked over abruptly, and when they saw Chen Hui's figure, they all became excited immediately. Dr. Chen Hui is a real person. They are finally meeting. Among the crowd, there was a blonde girl with hesitation in her expression, looking in the direction of Chen Hui, with complicated eyes. She is Gwen. When she saw Chen Hui on the news, she was very surprised. Chen Hui told her that she was going to work in Hammer Industries. She knew this, but she never expected that Chen Hui would have an affair with the legendary Iron Man, got a relationship and saved Iron Man's life. This surprised Gwen, but soon delighted. Because Chen Hui is his boyfriend, and her boyfriend is successful, she is definitely happy, but soon Gwen frowned, because Chen Hui is so popular, and even overnight, he became the boy in the hearts of countless girls. God, there are some very good women among them. She, Gwen Stacy, is just an ordinary student. Although some people found her information on the internet, saying that she is Chen Hui's girlfriend, it quickly aroused the disdain of those female fans, saying that Gwen is a good match. Without Chen Hui, the words were extremely ugly, and Gwen was even threatened by some malicious people that night. This made Gwen extremely wronged. She originally wanted to visit Chen Hui and surprise Chen Hui, but because of this, she hesitated, and she didn't even call Chen Hui. Until she saw the news of Chen Hui's illness on the internet, she finally couldn't sit still and came here. Watching Chen Hui walk out of the villa, smiling at the fans, nodding, saying hello, signing autographs, and taking photos together, Gwen stood in the corner alone, holding the soup for Chen Hui in his hand, and his footsteps seemed to be filled with lead. Unable to lift the slightest. She is afraid. I'm afraid that Chen Hui will be forgotten after becoming an all-star idol in the fire. After all, she is so ordinary, a student and the daughter of a policeman, and Chen Hui is now famous and is Iron Man's savior. The identities of the two sides are too different. Yes, especially now Chen Hui has so many female fans. Okay. Chen Hui is taking a photo with a female fan, becoming a star idol for the first time. To be honest, Chen Hui is still a little excited. Now that he has passed the star addiction, he feels very refreshed. But suddenly, his eyes moved, and he saw a blonde girl holding soup in the corner. This figure was too familiar to him. From childhood to adulthood, his childhood sweetheart, this woman he wanted to protect his whole life, how could he not be familiar with? Gwen. Chen Hui's voice sounded, he walked quickly to Gwen, and said with a smile, "Why are you here? Why didn't you call me when you came?" Ah! Gwen was stunned, and looked up at Chen Hui standing in front of her, with some disbelief in her eyes. "Chen Hui, you? Oh, I was about to call you, I didn't see you. Are you taking pictures with fans?" Gwen smiled, but it was a little forced. Chen Hui's eyes moved, followed by a smile. He was very observant, seeing Gwen's expression at this moment. How could he not know what this little girl was thinking? So his eyes rolled, and he pulled Gwen's arm directly, and pressed it tightly to his side. He even waved and called a female reporter over. "Who is this girl? It looks so old-fashioned, but Dr. Chen Hui is actually holding hands with her. Should be Dr. Chen Hui's sister or something." There was a lot of discussion among the crowd, and many female fans looked over with jealousy in their eyes. "Dr. Chen Hui, this is..." The female reporter looked at Gwen curiously. "Let me introduce you to everyone." Facing the lens of the photographer beside the female reporter, Chen Hui smiled and said, "This is my childhood sweetheart, my girlfriend, my only wife after Chen Hui, and I want to protect her for the rest of my life. In my eyes, the world's most beautiful woman, Gwen Stacy." Chapter 41. Chen Hui's sudden announcement of his girlfriend caught the media by surprise, fans by surprise, and even Gwen himself. Immediately there was an uproar, and many fans were heartbroken, but soon, Chen Hui's actions were praised by various media, saying that Chen Hui never forgets his little girlfriend who has been silently supporting him since he became famous, he is a good man who is loyal to love, etc. Overnight, Chen Hui's fans couldn't help but increase, and even Gwen had fans too. This made Chen Hui dumbfounded. But his mind was not here, so he didn't pay much attention afterwards. After having a good time with Gwen at the Stark Industry Expo, he continued to invest in the research on arc reactor. Even the study of bioreactors is not enough, and the bioreactor chips are also taken out for research. With the arc reactor, Chen Hui's research speed on bioreaction chips has increased significantly. It was difficult to continue to improve when the progress reached 85%, but now it has increased to about 92% in just a few days. The speed is not bad. But soon Chen Hui's research reached a bottleneck. After reaching 92%, Chen Hui found that in order to thoroughly study the bioreactor chip and develop a set of specific theoretical principles for the arc reaction in units of cells, he still needs to have a more detailed and thorough understanding of the arc reactor. It is no longer enough to just observe and study the real thing, he also needs the detailed design drawing of the arc reactor. It's basically impossible to get detailed design drawings from Tony. Even if it's stolen, I don't even know if he still has the design drawings at home. This is a big problem. It seems that only I can set my sights on the whip, Ivan Vank. Chen Hui narrowed his eyes slightly. There is no doubt that there is a detailed design drawing on the whip, but it is a pity that although he has asked Hammer to search for news about the whip, until today, there has been no progress. It seems that since the whip entered the United States, it completely evaporated. Did he? Suddenly there was a message on the phone. Chen Hui opened it and found that it was a message from Hammer. As for the content of the message, Chen Hui looked at it, his eyes flashed, and a smile followed the corner of his mouth. It's Tony Stark's invitation. Invite him to watch the Monaco Motorsport. Monaco Motorsports, this is exactly where Whiplash appears in the movie. Chen Hui thought to himself, Whiplash probably will appear there, or I'll ask Hammer to send some people to follow in Monaco. Once found there is no trace of the whip, catch it immediately. Chen Hui met Tony the next day and went to Monaco. Tony's Audi R8 supercar. Dr. Chen Hui, I haven't had time to thank you for your life-saving grace. Tony said while driving, to be honest, those shrapnel have troubled me for a long time. The shrapnel was taken out, I'm curious, how did you do it? It's very simple, just take it out. Chen Hui said with a smile. Smoothly. Tony rolled his eyes, then smiled wryly. In fact, with his ability, he has already investigated and found out that the most important reason why Chen Hui was able to take out the shrapnel in his body was to inject him with a magical potion, and the reason why he asked Chen Hui was also to find out the news of this magic potion. With Chen Hui's shrewdness, how could he not know what Tony was thinking? It's just that now that Hammer is under control, he doesn't need money at all, so there's no need to expose his potions, not even lizard healing potions. These things are his trump cards and need to be used at critical moments. Soon the two arrived in Monaco. The game was also held as scheduled. In the VIP seat in the front row, Chen Hui was sitting, while Tony was on the side. The two watched the game, but Chen Hui was not interested in the game, but just watched around, wearing a Bluetooth headset in his ear, constantly communicate with Hammer. Seeing Chen Hui ignoring him, Tony couldn't help being a little depressed, but seeing a player about to drive to the field at this moment, he couldn't help but move his eyes. Chen Hui. Hey? What's the matter? This game is very boring, how about I give you a show? Tony was beaming, and as he spoke, he stepped over the railing, walked straight to the racing driver, and kicked him out. Then he put on his helmet, got into the racing car, and waved to Chen Hui. Chen Hui was taken aback. Originally, all his attention was focused on searching for the whip. He never thought that Tony would take the initiative to enter the race. After all, according to the original plot, Tony was born with lovelessness due to palladium poisoning and wanted to go crazy at the last moment of his life. Now that all the shrapnel has been taken out, he is very lively, so how can he go racing? However, there are some things that are always strikingly similar. Tony actually chose to enter the arena for him. Chen Hui wanted to refuse at first, but after thinking about it, this guy came to seek revenge from Tony. A great bait from the whip. Thinking of this, he also waved to Tony and gave a thumbs up. Seeing Chen Hui's reaction, Tony was immediately excited. As soon as he stepped on the accelerator, the car flew out. Hammer, pay close attention, once you find your whereabouts, immediately implement an arrest operation. Understood, boss. After Chen Hui gave the order, his eyes flickered, and he looked around carefully. He remembered that the whip was disguised as a staff member, and it should be easy to search for the image of the thick whip. Suddenly, Chen Hui focused his gaze. Just by the side of the driveway, a maintenance worker in a bright orange coat stood up. He was tall and his clothes looked very disheveled. He didn't notice it when he was squatting next to the car before, but now he stood up and immediately attracted Chen Hui. Attention! He could tell at a glance that this person was Yvonne Vank. The whip. Wow! Chen Hui stood up abruptly, and ordered coldly in his mouth. The person has been found. He is in the maintenance yard. Immediately implement an arrest operation, fast. Chapter 42. Understood. Boss. Act now. Hurry up. Hearing Chen Hui's order, Hammer immediately commanded his capture team to start heading for the maintenance field, and arrived in a short while. At this time, the whip was about to enter the racing track, and when he saw so many people rushing towards him, he immediately frowned, retreated without any hesitation, ran at high speed, and fled to the outside of the track. Catch him at all costs. Chen Hui gave the order to die. At the same time, his figure stood up and also left towards the outside. When he reached a remote corner with no one, the venom battlesuit on his body surged and turned into a black windbreaker with a hood. The hood covered his head, and caused the venom battlesuit to split into a small piece, covering his face and only showing a pair of eyes. The reason why I didn't turn into the original form is because the tights look too conspicuous. The venom battlesuit can simulate the surrounding environment, thereby transforming his form. He can't always change into tights, otherwise his features will be too obvious, and the huge amounts of windbreaker can slightly cover his bone spurs, so as not to be recognized by Tony. Whoosh! Chen Hui's figure flashed like lightning, and soon he saw the whip that was about to escape from the racing track, and behind him was a group of Hammer chasing him. Who is this person? Why is he being chased by a group of people? Hey? Among the people chasing him is Justin Hammer, that famous billionaire. Why is he chasing him himself? It seems that the one being chased is a very important person. I seem to have some vague reflections. That person seems to be the fugitive from Russia that was mentioned on the internet a few days ago. This scene attracted the audience's attention very much, and many people even took out their mobile phones to take pictures, completely ignoring the race in full swing on the lane at the moment. Damn it! Whiplash was out of breath, and when he looked back for a while, he found that there were more people chasing him. In addition to Hammer and the others, there were also the security guards at the racetrack, the police, etc., and they all chased him with all their might. Coming up, some even took out their guns and started shooting. This time, the whip rope was enraged immediately, his eyes were sharp, and his face was even more fierce. He spat out the toothpick in his mouth. With the sound of stabbing, he tore off the clothes on his body. But the clothes were torn, an array of light flickered in front of the whip rope. It could be seen that it was a gleaming white circle of light. With this circle of light as the center, steel exoskeletons stretched out to wrap the whip rope. The whole body. At the same time, shake your hand. Clap. Immediately, two iron whips flickering with lightning were stretched out, and rolled directly towards the person chasing behind. Be careful. Hammer and the group of people changed their expressions and hurriedly stopped. But the few people in the front didn't have time to stop immediately, they were hit by the whip that flickered with lightning, the whole person let out a miserable scream, turned back, fell to the ground fiercely, twitched for a while passed out. Seeing this scene, everyone immediately swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and some timid people in the audience screamed even more. Hee, this is the price you pay for hindering me. Go to hell with me. Feeling the strength of his exoskeleton armor, the whip rope showed excitement, with a trace of bloodthirsty killing intent, moved his hand, waved the electric whip again, and rolled towards everyone. Those who originally wanted to grab the whip, saw the electric whip being swung again, and thought of the fate of the previous few people, they immediately became frightened and ran away. On the contrary, Hammer has always adhered to Chen Hui's order, and the first generation of the curse seal can enhance the physique of ordinary people, making Hammer dodge the electric whip neatly, and at the same time raise the gun in his hand. Boom! A bullet flew out quickly and hit the whip rope's arm directly. Feeling the severe pain in his arm, the whip grinned, but the fierceness in his eyes became stronger. He swung the electric whip, and quickly rolled towards Hammer. Seeing that Hammer was about to be whipped away, at this moment, one hand suddenly grabbed the electric whip. Okay. Whipcord stared. Look at the owner of this hand. This is a man covered in a black windbreaker all over his body, and he has a black glove on his hand. He doesn't know what material it is made of, but he can actually grab his electric whip without the slightest reaction. This scene immediately made the whip vigilant, and he wanted to pull back the whip, but the next moment his pupil shrank. Because he found that the whip was not moving at all in the opponent's hand, no matter how hard he tried, the whip was firmly held by the opponent, as if it was welded. "Hammer, back away," Chen Hui said lightly. "Yes, boss." Hammer stepped back. At this moment, Chen Hui looked at Whiplash. His Venom battle suit, under his improvement, can prevent fire, water and electricity, so Whiplash's whip is of no use to him at all. Just pulling it with his hand is very convenient. Being pulled over by him, it really shouldn't be too easy. "Who are you?" Whistle's face suddenly changed. You must know that his exoskeleton battle suit, coupled with the arc reactor power supply, can greatly enhance his strength, which is several times stronger than ordinary people. But in front of this man in front of him, he was directly crushed. How could he not be shocked? Chapter 43. Who am I? Chen Hui smiled. "You can call me Dad," said and waved his fist. The huge amounts of power set off the sound of breaking the wind, almost a sonic boom. The whip rope's face changed wildly, and he swung another electric whip without the slightest hesitation. Under his control, this electric whip almost integrated all the energy of his arc reactor. The strong electric light tore through the air, and there was a crackling sound, as if thunder had landed. Chen Hui frowned. The Venom symbiote was actually a bit afraid of electricity originally, and only after his improvement has some anti-electricity ability, but now this electric whip gathers all the energy of the arc reactor, and the electric current that erupts is too strong. Even with his Venom the battlesuit can't be blocked hard either. As soon as the body retreated, the hand was also released, so as to avoid the sweep of the electric whip. But the whip took advantage of this opportunity and fled immediately. "Humph, you can't escape." Chen Hui snorted coldly, and immediately chased after him. With his explosive power and speed, the whip couldn't escape his palm at all. Boom! The soles of his feet stared, and the ground burst open. The powerful explosive force made him turn into an afterimage in the blink of an eye, and quickly approached the whip rope. Hearing the cracking sound behind him, and feeling Chen Hui's incomparably powerful aura, the whip trembled, and he flicked the electric whip quickly, and ran faster at the same time. Woo! But at this moment, from the lane ahead, a racing car galloped towards him. When the whip saw it, his face showed a fierce expression, and he flicked another electric whip, and the strong electric current was accompanied by the flick of the whip. It moved and directly hit the racing car. Just a bang! The racing car broke into two halves, and the racer inside had a look of bewilderment, and quickly got out, only to escape with his life. Laugh! With a movement of the whip, the racing car that was split in half by the electric current was rolled up and smashed directly towards Chen Hui. Humph! Chen Hui's eyes turned cold. Bone vein. Tsubaki dance. He pressed his palm on his left shoulder, and with a sound of psst, a jade-colored bone sword was pulled out. The sharp edge pierced the air, and with the slashing of his right hand, there was only a wow, and the half of the car was crushed. The rolling racing car was cut in half by him. Chen Hui's body didn't stop at all. The bone sword swung, his figure was like lightning, and he approached the whip again in the blink of an eye. With a movement of the whip with a strong electric current came again. Shua! This time Chen Hui didn't dodge, and the bone sword headed towards him. At the moment when the electric current's frenzied whip struck, the sword light flashed, and directly collided with the whip. Stab! There was a sharp collision and friction sound, and sparks splashed in all directions. This scene was clearly seen by everyone on the audience stage, and everyone couldn't help but take a deep breath and stare intently. The strong electric current on the whip can be felt even if they are far apart. As for Chen Hui, dancing wildly in the wind in a black windbreaker, holding a bone sword in his hand, his appearance is like that of a chivalrous master in a Chinese martial arts movie, which made their eyes flicker strongly, and a sense of anticipation rose in their hearts, wanting to see it. Is it the sword of the mysterious strong man, or the electric whip of the weird man in the exoskeleton battlesuit? Chi! Suddenly, strong sparks flashed from the electric whip, and in the splash, in the eyes of everyone, they saw that the electric whip suddenly broke into two. The front half fell to the ground, and the back half was held by the whip, staying in place, whipping himself, his eyes wide open, full of incredible. How is it possible? Humph, Yvonne Vank, come with me. After cutting off one electric whip of the whip, Chen Hui moved, and quickly cut off the other whip of the whip, making it no longer able to attack. In this way, he grabbed it with a big hand and directly grabbed the exoskeleton battlesuit of the whip, and quickly left the scene with a movement of his figure. It wasn't until Chen Hui left completely that the people on the audience stage recovered from the silence, followed by strong cheers. It's so handsome. Who is he? It looks like a mysterious black warrior, or a Chinese swordsman in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. My god, I admire him so much. To see such a wonderful battle, I didn't come to Monaco in vain this time. The audience was so excited that they all picked up their mobile phones and uploaded all the videos and photos they just took to the internet to show off. Woo! Just then, Tony had come back from one lap of the racetrack, made a nice elegant stop, and reached the finish line. Hearing the cheering of the audience around him, he thought they were all praising him, and couldn't help but look proud. Hey, guys, I appreciate your eyes, let's cheer more. Throwing the helmet away, Tony walked towards his seat gracefully. I thought the audience and his fans would gather around him, but he walked all the way, but there was no one at all. Tony couldn't help being stunned, especially when he heard the cheers from others. When he was talking about a swordsman in black, he was a little puzzled by the Urjang monk. After asking, he found out that there was a battle here just now. Surprised, Tony quickly asked someone to turn on the surveillance. After seeing the surveillance screen, he couldn't help opening his eyes. My god! This is the arc reactor. Hey? Where's Chen Hui? Suddenly Tony thought of something, looked around and found that Chen Hui was gone. Chapter 44. Pick up the phone. Tony dialed Chen Hui's number. But as soon as he put the phone on his ear, a hand patted his shoulder. Tony, I'm here. Chen Hui's voice came from behind. Tony turned around, and saw Chen Hui looking at him with a smile. Tony, I have to say, your driving skills are very good. That's definitely. Tony smiled smugly. But soon he sighed, it's just that I missed a good show. Chen Hui, did you see the battle just now? Well, I see it. Chen Hui raised his eyebrows and said, but I see that weirdo wearing an exoskeleton battlesuit seems to have exactly the same arc reactor as yours. What do you think about this? Didn't you say that no one can copy your arc reactor? That's what it means. Tony's face suddenly showed embarrassment. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind, and he said, by the way, Chen Hui, would you like to come to my house as a guest? Definitely willing. Chen Hui smiled and nodded, but I've been away from home for a long time, you know, I'm not yet an adult, I need to report to my family, and don't you mind if I bring my girlfriend there too? Haha, that's definitely no problem. In this way, Chen Hui bid farewell to Tony and agreed to visit Tony's mansion in Malibu 3 days later. After the two said goodbye, Chen Hui came to a remote alley in Monaco. His body was filled with venom battle suit, and he turned into the black windbreaker. He opened a hidden iron gate in the alley and walked in. Inside is a warehouse-like room, full of decaying atmosphere. Boss. Hanmer is waiting here with a few people. And behind them, on a steel chair, was tying a big man. It was Ivan Vank. A whip. At this moment, the whip rope is in a mess, and the exoskeleton battlesuit has been removed. Chen Hui came to the whip, took out an arc reactor in his hand, and played with it. Whipcord looked up and suddenly sneered, hee, friend, can you play with this high-tech thing? As he spoke, there was sarcasm in his eyes. Oh? Are you saying I can play without you? Chen Hui smiled, hee, if you want to say who can play, I have never lost to anyone since I was a child. Do you know my nickname? Nickname? Whistle was taken aback. Listen well, my nickname is City Play. The corner of Chen Hui's mouth curled into a smile, and he moved his hands quickly, like a phantom. In the stunned eyes of the whip, the arc reactor that was removed from the whip was like a toy in the hands of Chen Hui. It was quickly disassembled and quickly became a pile of parts, leaving only the most core parts. An arc reacted to the arc, shining brightly. Chen Hui has already dismantled this thing. What's more, the arc reactor of the whip is simpler than Tony's. It is not difficult for Chen Hui to dismantle it quickly. You. Whiplash took a deep breath and couldn't believe it. How do you know the structure of arc reactors so well? Who are you? Stark's people? Or, you are that damned Tony Stark? The whip roared loudly. It's really unbelievable. Logically speaking, he and Tony Stark are the only people in this world who are so familiar with the arc reactor. Seeing that the other party is so familiar with the structure of the reactor, he would dismantle it as soon as he said it. It's Tony Stark. There was an amused smile in Chen Hui's eyes. If he were Tony Stark, why would he still be looking for a whip? Without any nonsense, he said bluntly, I am definitely not Tony Stark, Vank, I will give you a chance to live now. Tell me the detailed design drawings of the arc reactor on your body are in where, or you just draw it for me, then I will consider letting you live, otherwise. Hehe, you know my tricks. As he said that, the bone sword in Chen Hui's hand flashed, and the sharp cold light approached the whip rope's neck. Cold sweat dripped down Whiplash's face. However, he was originally a villain and a ruthless person. Not only did he not listen to Chen Hui's threats, but he laughed instead, hehe, so that's why you arrested me, because you wanted the detailed drawings of the arc reactor, right? Let me tell you, idiot. Mind. Delusion. Thinking. Even if you kill me, I won't tell you. As he spoke, there was a sneer on his face, but I can show you a clear way. Tony Stark also has blueprints. You can arrest him and threaten him by the way. If you kill him, hehe, then I will not only design the detailed drawings for you, but also personally help you build an arc reactor that is exclusive to you. How about it? Why don't we make a deal like this? Chen Hui looked at the whip lightly, his expression showing indifference. This whip is treating him like a fool. It is good. Since you regard me as a fool, don't blame me for being rude. Chen Hui directly raised the bone sword, sneered, blood splashed out, and directly pierced Whiplash's chest. Whiplash stared. He stared at Chen Hui dumbfounded, never expecting that the other party's move would be so swift and neat. At this moment, his body couldn't help but tremble. Humph. Chen Hui snorted coldly, sometimes wicked people need more vicious people to deal with them. An old loach like Whiplash who has been in Ross prison in Russia can't talk nonsense with him. If he can be violent, he can be more violent. One generation of curse seals to control. Now he doesn't expect to get the detailed design of the arc reactor from Whiplash's mouth immediately. Moreover, a person like Whiplash has much stronger willpower than the average person, and he wants to weaken his willpower now, in preparation for the next generation of control after returning to Queens. Chen Hui slowly, drew out the sword. He is very clear about the structure of the human body. This sword can't kill the whip, but it can make him feel unparalleled pain. After pulling out the sword, Chen Hui raised the sword and stabbed in again. The whip made a scream. He had been subjected to various instruments of torture in prison, which left many scars on his body, but never once could be as painful as it is now. Chen Hui's sword seemed to have simply pierced into his body, but faintly, there seemed to be a strange force on the edge of the sword, constantly twisting his flesh and blood, making his pain magnified several times immediately. Chen Hui was also a little surprised to see the whip yelling like a pig being killed. Logically speaking, although he chose a part of the human body that can cause the most pain to torture the whip, it is impossible to produce such an excellent effect. Could it be a problem with the bone sword? Chen Hui carefully looked at his own bone sword. The bone sword is extremely smooth, not stained with blood, and there is a strange jade color faintly surging on it. Originally, Chen Hui thought it was the perfect lizard gene, spider gene integrated by himself, and after being strengthened with the perfect green goblin strengthening potion, the bone sword a change in texture, it becomes stronger, so that this jade-colored brilliance shines out. But looking at it now, this jade-colored brilliance seems to be a special kind of radiated energy in the bones. It was this energy, like a meat grinder, that multiplied the pain of the whip rope. Try again. Chen Hui's eyes flickered strangely, and he was about to stab the sword into the whip cable and observe carefully. Seeing this, Whiplash felt like dying. Even with his willpower, he no longer wanted to endure that kind of inhuman pain, and hurriedly shouted, "Wait a minute! Wait a moment! Stop! I will hand over the blueprint, I will give you all the detailed design drawings of the arc reactor. As long as you stop." Chen Hui's sword stopped abruptly. Looking at the whip, he frowned a little. "No. Just bear with me. I'll be fine soon." Saying that, he stabbed the sword on the whip rope's body again. "Ah! You pervert!" Chapter 45. After an hour. Whiplash's eyes were dazed, his whole body lost his mind, he stared blankly ahead, and could even faintly see tears flickering in his eyes. He already regretted so much why he went to the racing track. If he didn't go to the race track, he wouldn't have encountered this demon. At this moment, Chen Hui put away the bone sword with still unfinished business. It turns out that the jade-colored brilliance in my bones is indeed a kind of radioactive energy, but it is not radioactive. Instead, it only penetrates in a very small range with nanometers as the unit, and rotates at a high speed. When it penetrates the whip, he will scream like a pig. In this way, I can integrate it into my cell arc reactor. Thinking of this, Chen Hui waved to Han Mo bring him back to Queen's. Yes, boss. Han Mo responded with a signal, and immediately several subordinates around him rushed forward, set up the whip rope, and looked at Chen Hui with horror. They watched the scene of Chen Hui torturing the whip from beginning to end. I swear in my heart that I will never provoke Chen Hui in the future and must obey the other party's orders completely. Chen Hui is in a good mood, and tortured the whip to such an extent, it doesn't matter whether he tells himself about the detailed blueprint of the arc reactor or not. Speaking of design drawings, mass production of arc reactors, and the manufacture of their own Iron Legion can all be done. Definitely, he won't really mass produce it for the time being. He hasn't studied biology thoroughly yet, so he won't spend too much time working on this thing. He will wait until he feels that the ability of his bone veins has been enhanced to a similar level. Get started on this thing. And he also has an idea, to combine the Venom battlesuit with the steel armor, so as to derive an existence similar to the T-1000 robot in Terminator, whose whole body can change shape at will, although this is just a hypothesis, but Chen Hui thought about it carefully, and it is still possible in theory, and he can try it in the future. Soon, Chen Hui returned to his laboratory in Queens. The first thing is naturally to create the first generation of curse seal to control the whip. However, during the manufacturing process, Chen Hui couldn't help incorporating some of his own research ideas on arc reactor, so what he produced was not a complete curse seal 1. To be precise, it can be called curse seal 1.5, which has stronger control ability. And can also enhance the energy of the person being controlled, so that the other party can work for him for a long time. After the whip rope was injected with 1.5 generations of the curse seal, he immediately became energetic. The injuries all over his body recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Boss. Whipcord looked at Chen Hui with gratitude and respect in his eyes. If it hadn't been for the previous fight with Chen Hui, he would not have been able to see that he was controlled by Chen Hui. The enhanced Mantra 1 and 5 have comprehensively improved the control method, and the brainwashing is more thorough. On the surface, there is no abnormality at all. The whip has its own emotions and thoughts, as well as its own temper, but for Chen Hui be absolutely respectful and follow any orders from Chen Hui. Show me the detailed design drawings of the arc reactor, and make an arc reactor in front of me. The process must be detailed. I have a lot of materials here. It is definitely enough. You can use it to your heart's content. Enough material? That would be great. Whiplash became excited. As long as there are top-level materials, the arc reactor I made will definitely be 100 times stronger than that guy Tony Stark, said the whip and went to work. Chen Hui watched from the side. 3 days passed quickly. Chen Hui came out of the laboratory with unfinished thoughts. He has a complete understanding of the manufacture of the arc reactor. With this, he has also researched the biological reaction chip to a 100% level. In other words, from now on, he can try this plan of full skeleton vibraniumization. But right now he is going to be a guest at Tony's house, he can only resist the urge in his heart, and Chen Hui faintly feels that to form an arc reactor on each osteoblast, it is not enough to rely on only one special vibranium element. After all, vibranium element it cannot be burned as a raw material, and the biological reaction chip can only stimulate its own biological energy, making each cell strong enough to withstand the impact of the arc reactor. In addition, he still lacks an energy element. Similar to Iron Man's original palladium. It's just that the palladium element is poisonous, so Chen Hui thought about it and set his mind on the relic of Tony's father, the brand new element that has not yet been born. As long as he can obtain this new element, then his full skeleton vibranium project can start working immediately. About going to Tony's house as a guest, Chen Hui had told Gwen 3 days ago, and now that he left the laboratory, he went straight to Gwen's house and picked her up. Gwen is dressed very charmingly today, wearing a white skirt and crystal shoes. She looks as holy as an angel. Gwen, you look so beautiful today. Chen Hui kissed Gwen and smiled slightly. Gwen was shy for a while, and couldn't hide her joy when Chen Hui praised her. Suddenly, she seemed to remember something, and asked Chen Hui, "By the way, Chen Hui, Mr. Stark invited you to his house as a guest, why do you? It's not good to pull me over, is it? What's so bad about that? Chen Hui scratched Gwen's nose and smiled, that guy Tony is always accompanied by Pepper, if I wasn't with you, wouldn't I have to watch the two of them all the way? Show affection? I don't want to do that. Besides, didn't you always want to see Iron Man's mansion and get close to Iron Man? I always remember it. Gwen was moved when he heard this. It was just a word she said casually when Iron Man was just born. Chen Hui said at the beginning that she would fulfill her wish, but she thought Chen Hui just said it casually, but she didn't expect Chen Hui to realize her wish for her, so she couldn't help being satisfied. His face moved, he stood on tiptoe and kissed Chen Hui. Chapter 46. Malibu, in Stark's mansion. It faces the sea, the blue sky and white clouds, the cool breeze, and the scenery is very beautiful. Malibu is the top wealthy area in Los Angeles, USA. When I came here, I saw the scenery here. Even Chen Hui couldn't help admiring it. Not only the scenery here is beautiful, but the super mansions located here are also one of a kind. Eye-catching scenery. Gwen, on the other hand, was completely attracted, amazed like a little girl. Gwen, how about I buy a house here in the future and bring you to live here? Chen Hui said. What? Gwen was taken aback, and immediately waved his hands and said, No, no, the housing prices here are too expensive. Haha, Gwen, Chen Hui is an all-star idol now, and he is also the chief scientific advisor of Hammer Industries. More importantly, he has achieved such achievements at a young age. He will be very rich in the future. Buy here a mansion, even building a mansion is easy, don't save money for your man. At this time Tony came over, holding 2 glasses of light golden champagne in his hand. Chen Hui, if you want to live in Malibu in the future, I can design a house for you for free. Look, this is what I designed. How about it, is it cool? It's really cool. Chen Hui took the champagne, nodded and smiled. Oh, by the way, Tony, Gwen admires Iron Man very much, she is your little fan. Can you sign her autograph and get in touch with you up close? Your steel battle suit? To be honest, I am also very interested in your steel battle suit, and. As Chen Hui said, he suddenly approached Tony, and said in a low voice, I have taken out the shrapnel in your body now. Although you don't need to install an arc reactor on your body, it is enough to install an independent energy system on the battle suit, but the palladium element is not a prying device. The key to the future that moves the future. To be honest, the energy source of palladium is still too small, Tony, haven't you noticed this? Oh. Tony's eyes flashed. In fact, he had already discovered this problem. He wants to use the arc reactor not only to supply energy to the steel battle suit, but also to use it in other wider aspects, such as, to supply energy to the Stark building, a huge building hundreds of meters high. In this way, the palladium element simply cannot bear it. It's just that he didn't expect that Chen Hui could think of this problem, so he couldn't help being a little surprised. What are you two whispering about? Don't neglect Gwen. At this time, little Pepper walked over. He was wearing a red dress, and he looked very hot, but he was still intellectually graceful, which made people's eyes shine. Oh, Pepper, you didn't tell me that you changed into such a beautiful dress. Tony said, what? Do you want to compete with Chen Hui's little girlfriend? To be honest, Pepper, there was when the guests came, I never saw you dressed so beautifully. Okay, Tony, stop talking. Pepper gave a blank look, lunch is ready, and I ordered a pizza, let's have dinner together. Oh, yes, Tony, you don't need pizza share. Pepper, don't be like this. Tony hurried forward and whispered, after all, I am the owner of this place, please do me some face. Well, leave me a small share, okay. Lunchtime ends quickly. Gwen was led by Pepper to visit the mansion and enjoyed the scenery, while Chen Hui and Tony came to his underground laboratory and visited his Iron Man battlesuit. It's just a visit, but under Chen Hui's deliberate guidance, the two gradually talked about new energy elements, especially when Chen Hui discovered the relic left by Tony's father. The sand table with future urban planning. Finally, his eyes lit up, and he picked up the sand table directly. Tony, look at the globe in the middle, does it look like an atomic nucleus? Chen Hui pointed to the sand table and asked. Oh. Tony was taken aback when he heard the words, and after looking carefully at the past, his eyes suddenly focused, it seems to be a bit similar. Not only that, those gazebos seem to be a structure composed of neutrons and protons. By the way, my dad said that in this sand table it contains the key to the future that will shake the future, so it could be that this is. Tony, it seems that your father has already paved the way for your future. Chen Hui pretended to be excited about discovering the new world. There is probably a powerful kind of life in this sand table. Yes, a new energy element that can replace palladium. J.A.R.V.I.S. Start model analysis. Excited, Tony immediately entered the research state and analyzed the data composition of this brand new element together with Chen Hui. Now that Tony's inspiration has been inspired, leading him to create a new element, my purpose is almost done. Next, I just need to wait for the new element to come out. Chen Hui's eyes flickered secretly. Chapter 47. Tony's father, Captain America's friend at the time, Howard Stark, had close contact with Tesseract and had a lot of research on Tesseract. The biggest achievement he made on Tesseract at the beginning was to study the atomic composition of one of the energy elements. That is, the current sand table model. In other words, the brand new elements created by Chen Hui and Tony are actually energy elements in Tesseract. And what is Tesseract? According to the legend, the space gem among the 6 infinite gems has incredible energy, and the elements contained in it are naturally several times stronger than the palladium element. Chen Hui deeply understands this, so he wants to use this new element to integrate the vibranium element, generate collisions, explode energy, and form the arc reactor in the cells, so that he can have a power similar to chakra, strength, and vibraniumize the whole body skeleton. The two were researching like a raging fire, and time passed by unknowingly. During the period, Xiao Jiao and Gwen came here, and they couldn't help being stunned for a moment when they saw this scene, and then they looked at each other, and they both showed the same wry smile. Gwen, don't worry about it. Tony is like this. Once he studies it, he will be completely immersed in it. Sister Pepper, it's okay, Chen Hui has always been like this, I'm used to it, but I'm sorry, the reason why Mr. Stark is still studying it now must be led by Chen Hui. Well, by the way, Gwen, I know there is a very good spa, but it's a bit far away, how about I take you there? Okay, I'm very happy. Speaking of which, the two women walked out of the mansion while talking about skincare and other things with great interest. But Chen Hui and Tony are almost indifferent to the outside world, they are like crazy monsters, completely immersed in the research. 3 days later. Tony, you turn on the switch, I will guide, this is the last step. Chen Hui said quickly towards Tony. Clear. Tony made an okay gesture, followed by breathing quietly, and turned on the switch of the particle accelerator under his body. During these 3 days of cooperation, the two have already had a deep understanding. At this moment, as Tony turned on the switch of the particle accelerator. Wow! Suddenly, 2 beams of blue light shot out, directly destroying the outer wall of the underground studio, but the two didn't pay attention to this, but stared at the 2 beams of light. Under Chen Hui's guidance, the 2 beams of light approached slowly, and then, collided. Chi. At the moment of the collision, the 3rd beam of light suddenly appeared. Import elements. Chen Hui said quickly, Tony had been prepared for a long time. At the moment when the 3rd beam of light was generated, he had already placed a brand new unactivated arc reactor. Next, under the guidance of Chen Hui, the 3rd beam with a boom, the light directly hit the arc reactor. The whole dim arc reactor suddenly lit up, blooming a blue halo, forming a different, brand new, unique triangular arc reactor. Successful. Seeing this, Tony clenched his fists and let out a cheer. Chen Hui also smiled. For Tony, this is just a new, more powerful arc reactor, but for Chen Hui, this will be the key to his transformation. A new element has been created, and Chen Hui's purpose of coming to Tony's house is almost completed. Next, he only needs to wait until he returns to his laboratory in Queens to start the full skeleton vibranium project. Hey? Where's Gwen? Where's Pepper? Suddenly, the two were taken aback, only to realize that Gwen and Pepper were gone. Sir, Miss Potts took Miss Stacy to the spa, she asked me to tell you not to worry. Just then, the voice of J.A.R.V.I.S rang out. Going to the spa. Chen Hui was taken aback, where did they go? How long have they been there? Mr. Chen Hui, according to the positioning system, we can know that they went to Washington, and now it is the 3rd day. J.A.R.V.I.S said. 3 days. Chen Hui frowned. Tony frowned when he heard that. It took 3 days to go to Washington to do spa fun, which is weird, but 2 days is fine. After all, it takes a lot of time to go back and forth to Washington, but 3 days is a bit strange. Sir, this is today's morning paper. At this moment, J.A.R.V.I.S controlled the screen projection, and displayed the detailed information in a newspaper from the air. This is the fixed work content of J.A.R.V.I.S every morning. Tony usually doesn't bother to look at this thing. This is what Little Pepper set for J.A.R.V.I.S work content. Okay. Chen Hui was worried about Gwen and was about to call her. At this moment, he glanced at the morning paper casually, but he couldn't take his eyes away from this glance. I saw the headline on the morning newspaper, which was a line of shocking green text. Huge green monsters attack Washington. Chapter 48. Great Green Monster, Green Titan. Chen Hui narrowed his eyes slightly, focused on the background of the Green Titan photographed in the ruins on the morning paper, and took a deep breath. It's actually a Green Titan. And as luck would have it, it was Gwen and Pepper who were attacking Washington, who went to a spa. No wonder Pepper and the others have been away for so long, they must have been attacked by this green monster. Tony also noticed the news, and when his expression changed, he quickly dialed Pepper's phone. The result is, no one connects. Tony's expression darkened immediately. At this time, Chen Hui played Gwen's phone call, but no one answered it either. The two looked at each other, then immediately turned around and headed for the underground studio. Not for a while. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 steel armor figures rushed out of the mansion, and with the surge of waves behind them, they suddenly increased their speed to supersonic speed and flew towards Washington. J.A.R.V.I.S, find the specific location of Pepper and Gwen. Yes, sir. Connect to the Stark satellite, searching for specific positioning. Drop. The search is over. Miss Potts and Miss Stacy have successfully obtained the specific location data. At the intersection of Pennsylvania Avenue and Indiana Avenue in Washington, they are moving quickly in the east direction. Chen Hui frowned when he heard what J.A.R.V.I.S said. Pennsylvania Avenue is called America Avenue, very close to the White House where the President is, and the Capitol. The Green Titan attacked Washington, and there will definitely be a large number of troops stationed there. Pepper and Gwen ran there. Be wise, after all there is an army, security. But at the same time, it's unwise. Because there is an army that is bound to attack the Green Titan, and Bruce Banner is obviously a Green Titan that has only recently transformed. Ordinary people don't understand the horror of the more angry he is, the greater his power. Blindly attacking will undoubtedly only make the Green Titan go berserk, thus, attacking the army. In this way, the army will become more dangerous. J.A.R.V.I.S, search for the giant green monster. See how far it is from Pennsylvania Avenue. Chen Hui said suddenly. Okay, Mr. Chen Hui. Stark satellite positioning search. Drop. The search was successful. I found the trace of a huge green monster, in a building that has been turned into ruins, 3,682 meters away from Pennsylvania Avenue. Hearing this distance, Chen Hui's heart tightened slightly. This distance can basically be reached by a Green Titan with a single jump. If the military kills them and forcibly pulls the Green Titan's hatred, even the tank army will be crushed into meatloaf by the Green Titan in that leap. I hope the military will not be too deadly. Chen Hui murmured in his heart that during these times, he had completely adapted to the environment in the steel battle suit, and he knew all the operations by heart. With an acceleration, a strong wave burst out behind him, and even a sharp whistling. His speed surged again. His steel battle suit is still powered by an independent palladium element arc reactor, while Tony is an arc reactor with a new element installed. After all, they have only built one so far, and Tony must use it for himself first, so that he can carry out a comprehensive battlesuit adaptation. Just looking at it right now, Chen Hui's speed is undoubtedly faster, but the amount of energy he consumes is about the same as Tony's. It's not that Chen Hui's skill in controlling the steel battlesuit is so high, and the palladium element is not as good as the new element, but Chen Hui has turned off many functions that are not very necessary for him, such as keeping the body warm and shock-proof. Waiting for a series of functions to protect the body, he is useless. He doesn't need to use it either. Because his body is very comparable to human beings, he is strong enough to ignore the damage caused by these high-altitude flight vibrations. Chen Hui, you. Tony was about to remind Chen Hui that the flight was too fast and might cause some damage to his body, but when he called up all aspects of Chen Hui's steel battle suit, his eyes widened suddenly. Basically all protective functions of the body are turned off. But Chen Hui seems to be a normal person. In the J.A.R.V.I.S body detection scan, he is even in better health than him. Those high-altitude flight vibrations and cold air damage are like scratching an itch for Chen Hui. There is no power at all. Tony was stunned. Looking at Chen Hui is like looking at a monster. He never imagined that his own steel battle suit could operate like this. Tony, remember those liquid medicines I used for you? My body has been strengthened by myself, so you don't have to worry. Chen Hui said. In the 3 days of joint research, he and Tony can be said to have become good friends. There is no need to hide this from him. Moreover, he is now in a steel battle suit, and J.A.R.V.I.S can scan his physical condition with one scan. Definitely, the ability of the bone veins can't be exposed for the time being, otherwise Tony will definitely jump when he sees it. Tony understood. He later called up his own surgery video and watched it, and found that after being injected with the liquid medicine, his body obviously got strengthening, but it was only time sensitive, which made him slightly disappointed, but now listening to Chen Hui's words, he understands what Chen Hui said. It should be a permanent body strengthening medicinal liquid, and his eyes lit up. You must know that although his steel battle suit is strong, it is ultimately limited by the human body inside it. If you want to have a stronger combat ability, you must provide more complete and comprehensive protection for the human body. If he can improve his physical fitness, he will undoubtedly be able to create a more powerful steel battle suit. But now that Pepper is in danger, his idea was just a flash of inspiration, and it was quickly buried in his heart. He stopped thinking about it and focused on rescuing Pepper and Gwen. We have to hurry up, the huge amounts of green monster are very close to Pepper and Gwen now. Chen Hui said to Tony. It is good. Tony nodded. Following the surging energy flow behind him, his speed also increased dramatically. Meanwhile, Washington. In a building that has been turned into ruins, there is smoke and dust, and a huge amounts of figure can be vaguely seen appearing in it. 30 or so heavily armed special soldiers surrounded and approached slowly, with grenade guns in their hands that could be fired anytime and anywhere. Roar! Suddenly, a beast-like growl sounded. The special soldiers were startled, and immediately became extremely vigilant, pressing the trigger at any time. Boom! 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 The ground shook, and at the same time the smoke and dust dissipated slowly, and a huge green figure walked out of it. It was the Green Titan. At this moment, his eyes were slightly blank, looking at the surrounding ruins, faintly, full of shock. A look of remorse and self-blame emerged from his eyes. The body seems to be returning to normal. But at this moment, when the 30 or so heavily armed special soldiers saw the Green Titan appearing, the powerful coercion immediately made their hearts tremble. Seeing a ferocious expression, he immediately thought that the Green Titan was going to attack them, so he quickly pulled the trigger. Boom! 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 Several grenades instantly hit the Green Titan's body. Roar! The next moment, an astonishing roar that seemed to make the earth tremble suddenly came out. Chapter 49. The roar was so strong that the ground seemed to burst open, and everyone's minds shuddered at this moment. And the 30 or so special soldiers were even more sluggish at this moment. There were even a few, their crotch was wet, they were so frightened that they lost control under this terrible roar, their hearts were trembling, and their teeth were chattering constantly. Boom! In the smoke and dust from the explosion of the grenade, one could faintly see that the green figure had become even bigger. With a movement of his footsteps, like an earthquake, the smoke and dust exploded suddenly, revealing his figure completely, looking at the 30 or so special soldiers, with a ferocious expression on his face. Boom boom boom, and with a movement of his footsteps, he rushed directly towards them. Attack attack! The 30 or so special forces soldiers pulled the trigger again without any hesitation, firing powerful grenades. Whoosh! I saw several grenades flying towards the Green Titan. Seeing this, thinking of the explosion just now, the Green Titan's face became more ferocious, and he slapped it with his big hand. Boom! Those few grenades were actually shot back and landed at the feet of the soldiers. 30 or so special soldiers were stunned, watching the grenade fall to their feet. Their expressions suddenly changed, and they rushed to the side without the slightest hesitation. Next moment, boom! The strong explosion directly turned this area into ruins. Far away, on Pennsylvania Avenue, hundreds of soldiers were ready to go, and some even came with tanks. At this moment, when they heard the strong explosion, their expressions changed, especially the leader of an old general with a white beard. Gloomy, staring ahead, he picked up the communicator. "Forward team, I'm General Ross, please call back, please call back." Chi. There was only the sound of electric current scurrying through the communicator. Hearing this, General Ross's face became even more gloomy. He waved his hand and shouted loudly behind him. "Alert! Listen to my orders and be ready to fight." Yes. The soldiers behind them all looked serious. They were all soldiers trained by the army for a long time. Although they were shocked by the ability of the huge green monster at the moment, they were not afraid, and there was even a faint sense of war in their eyes. It is also an honor for them to protect the president in front of the White House. Call. Suddenly a breaking wind sounded. Everyone was taken aback, raised their heads, and looked towards the sky. I saw a black shadow flying over there, and the soldiers felt strange at first. What is this? But soon, their faces changed drastically, because they saw, it was actually that huge green monster. At this moment, the size of the green monster became even taller, flying from the sky like a green missile. Seeing this, General Ross's face also changed wildly. He didn't expect the green monster to be so ferocious and jumped directly towards their army, but a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth soon. "How dare you jump from the air and face their full firepower? Court death! Wave! Attack!" Wow! All the soldiers pulled the trigger at this moment. Rocket launchers, missiles, and even a few tanks fired shells with a bang, which immediately shook the whole of Washington. Boom! 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 This firepower is so powerful that even the Green Titan was thrown back at this moment, especially when his body was hit by a missile and fell directly to the ground, creating a big crater. But soon, the smoke and dust filled the air, and the figure of the Green Titan jumped up again, with even more anger on his face. This time, he didn't jump, but ran towards the army. Along the way, rocks collapsed and the earth roared. Wherever he passed, all the buildings were in ruins. Now, Pepper and Gwen were at the rear of the army. Watching this scene, they gasped. "Sister Pepper, what kind of monster is this?" Gwen's eyes widened, in disbelief. "Can you fight the missile directly?" And the missile bombed him, and nothing happened. Little Pepper shook his head and sighed helplessly. "I don't know, but leave this kind of thing to the military. General Ross' command is very good. Although this green monster is strong, it can't rush." Before the words fell, suddenly several screams came from the front. Pepper and Gwen's expressions changed. All the soldiers in front flew up, and the huge green monster had already charged over. Wherever it passed, no matter if it was a missile or a rocket launcher, it was directly shot away, even if it was a tank, under its roar. It was directly disassembled into pieces, and the driver inside was so frightened that his liver and gallbladder were torn apart, and his crotch was wet. Pepper swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Then he pulled Gwen's arm without any hesitation, and flew back. "Gwen, run!" But how could their running speed be faster than the Green Titan? With just a few steps, the Green Titan has already caught up with the two of them, and just about to shoot them into the air, but at this moment, he was taken aback, feeling that these two people seemed to be different from the soldiers who attacked him. Thinking of this, Green Titan took a closer look at Pepper and Gwen. The three of them stared at each other for a while, and the scene fell silent. Boom! Suddenly a burst bullet hit the Green Titan. Although the bullet bounced back without even penetrating the Green Titan's skin, it still caused the Green Titan to raise his eyebrows and look back with an angry look on his face. I saw an old man in a mess, who was staring at everything in front of him dumbfounded at the moment, especially when he saw the bullet that bounced back. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva. This old man, General Ross, looked at the Green Titan with shock in his eyes, as if he didn't know what to do for a while. Roar! The Green Titan obviously recognized the nasty old man who was about to attack him, and slapped him with his big hand without the slightest hesitation. But at this moment, boom boom boom! 3 chain missiles flew over. Seeing this, the Green Titan showed disdain, and was about to shoot it off casually, but he didn't expect that the 3 chain missiles exploded ahead of schedule, and the powerful explosive force directly knocked him back. At the same time, whizzing! Two steel armor figures appeared in the air. Hey, big guy, your opponent is me. Tony's voice rose. At the same time, Chen Hui's figure moved, and brought Pepper and Gwen to a place far away from the Green Titan. When he saw General Ross, his eyes flickered slightly. He knew that this guy would be a red equivalent to the Green Titan in the future. Hulk, in the future, the Red Hulk gene will be very useful to him, so with a flash of his figure, he also grabs him and takes him to a distance. Chapter 50. Swish. Chen Hui opened his helmet. Gwen, Miss Potts, are you okay? We're fine. Seeing that it was Chen Hui, Gwen breathed a sigh of relief. However, seeing that Chen Hui was actually wearing Iron Man's battle suit, he couldn't help but his eyes lit up. Chen Hui, is your iron battle suit given to you by Mr. Stark? Chen Hui smiled and nodded. Not bad, how is it? Isn't he handsome? General Ross, what is this green monster? Chen Hui was talking with Gwen, while Pepper looked serious and looked at General Ross. As the CEO of Stark Industries, Pepper definitely knows General Ross. After all, Stark Industries is a famous arms industry, and it is inevitable to deal with the government, especially the military. Miss Potts, I actually don't know what this is. General Ross smiled wryly. I only know that a gamma ray research laboratory exploded yesterday, and this green monster appeared shortly after. I'm investigating the specific details. I apologize for the trouble. But since Stark is here, I also hope that Iron Man can cooperate with our military to subdue this green monster. Suddenly, General Ross's eyes were burning. He looked at Tony, and then at Chen Hui. Dr. Chen Hui, I know you, now that you are wearing a steel battle suit, you still hope to cooperate with our military. General Ross, with all due respect. Chen Hui looked calm and said, I think it was you who caused the catastrophe, not this green monster, or we can call it, Green Titan. Green Titan? I caused the catastrophe. General Ross was taken aback, then sneered, how do you say that? It's very simple. Chen Hui also sneered, General Ross, let me ask you something, do you think your firepower is useful against this Green Titan? General Ross froze for a moment. Judging from the situation just now, his firepower is like a weak chicken in front of the Green Titan, not worth mentioning. But we will have more powerful firepower soon. General Ross was not convinced, and said coldly, as long as you can hold this Green Titan and protect the White House and the Capitol, we will have stronger firepower in the near future, and we will definitely be able to subdue this monster and even kill it. Hee, General Ross, look what I heard, even kill, that is to say, you also know that this Green Titan is extremely difficult to kill, right? You should also see the terrible ability of this guy, right? Chen Hui sneered, I have seen everything before through satellite images. As the chief scientific advisor of Hammer Industries, I can tell you very clearly that you can't kill this Green Titan, but you can't accept it. The more you attack him, the more it will make him angry, and the consequence of anger, is to make him stronger, more powerful and more terrifying. So, the whole of Washington will be reduced to ruins under his wrath, let alone talk about the White House and the Capitol. General Ross. If this kind of thing really happens, can you bear the responsibility? Chen Hui's cold voice resounded in General Ross' ears. General Ross was speechless, partly because Chen Hui's words were indeed very reasonable, and he couldn't refute at all for a while, and partly because Chen Hui's aura suppressed him, so as if he was facing the president, he had a feeling that he could not lift his head up when facing the superior. This shocked General Ross. You must know that the other party is a boy of 15 or 16 years old, so he directly overwhelmed him in terms of momentum? It's incredible. So General Ross, please don't interfere in the future. Tony and I will calm this matter down, and we will definitely not hurt the White House and the Capitol. As he spoke, Chen Hui's figure flashed, and he met up with Tony directly. Tony, we have to lead this big guy out of the city to a suburb with few people. Chen Hui said. It is good. Tony nodded. With a direct movement of his hand, the palm cannon blasted at the Green Titan. Boom! This palm cannon is not like an ordinary bullet, because it is an energy supply, with a strong penetrating power, it immediately caused the Green Titan to suffer pain, roared, and rushed over. Tony flew straight up. But at this moment, the Green Titan's eyes flashed sharply, and with a huge amount of kick, the ground suddenly burst open, followed by his figure bouncing high like a cannonball, and instantly approached Tony's body. Tony's expression changed. The Green Titan bounced extremely high, and the speed was extremely fast, very fierce. Before he had time to react, he saw the Green Titan's big hand slapping him. Boom! Seeing that the Green Titan's big hand was about to send Tony flying, a figure rushed out suddenly. With the impact force and his originally 30-ton force, Chen Hui's explosive power at this moment directly reached the level of nearly 100 tons. With a punch, it landed on the Green Titan. Pang! This punch directly deflected the Green Titan's booming body, and then hit a building with his body. The whole building was shaken and almost broke at the waist, which shows the powerful impact of Chen Hui's punch. But in this way, the steel gloves of the battlesuit worn by Chen Hui were also flattened, making his hands ache from the shock. Fortunately, he has a powerful self-healing ability, and his bones are extremely strong. Otherwise, a strong person, such as Green Goblin whose body has been strengthened, will have his arm broken. After all, not just anyone can master the power of 100 tons of. Let's go! Blowing the Green Titan away with one punch, Chen Hui didn't have the slightest hesitation, the energy flowed under his feet, the speed increased sharply, and he flew towards the distance. Tony followed suit too. Shortly after. Boom! There was a sound of breaking wind, and the Green Titan figure rushed over, roaring furiously, and chased Chen Hui and the two frantically. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.